looking like a real Erika Kirk in here today.
Oh, this is how we're opening. Huh?
This is how we're opening up.
This is how we're gonna do it. Yeah, man. Look, I didn't kill my husband, and this is why I'm wearing elite level sniper gear.
Oh my God, man! I've stayed out of a lot of that, obviously, because
Sure.
like it's one of the more controversial talked about things. But you know, there's just no doubt at this point something is extremely off there. What it is, how deep it goes, I don't know.
Right.
I couldn't tell you. I'm not the guy investigating it like other people are, like Candace Owens and some of the people who've really looked into this. But like, I mean, you know, the eye test. The eye test is like, come on.
Doesn't smell good. That's for sure. Look, I've done, I don't know, probably 10 episodes on this topic at this point. My audience would love for me to do infinity episodes on it, but it's like I'm genuinely uncomfortable about it because if she is genuinely not involved, which I think there's a very high probability that she's not, the worst thing you could possibly do is just be dunking on this lady left and right, even though she's got like the PR chops of, I don't know, a potato or something. Like she's just not good at what she's doing. And it's just tragic that she's been put into this position on top of losing her husband, even if she wasn't involved, just making her the CEO of this major organization. She's just so ill-equipped for it at this point. But anyways, less about Erika, more about the actual attack. I mean, have you dug into it decently?
Started to a little bit because the story does not add up in any way. Just even like at the beginning, before you get to the details of who, what, when, where, how, like they made it a federal case. This is a kid who was in state, who came in state to do an in-state killing. Right there, that should be like, all right, why'd they do that? And then you get to the facts.
Did they make it federal?
They made it because Kash Patel was coming in there and like the feds were investigating it.
Yeah, you're right. But they brought the charges at the state level and the feds bowed out. So I think it is.
Did they bow out?
Yeah, well, they did that press conference, but as far as I know, the charges are being brought by local DAs. It's all local. So like the sheriff's office is involved. So I agree with you. It's very interesting that like Patel, you had that big jacket controversy where he had to get the, ladies medium before he could get off his plane. But then you've also got a lot of weirdness with like Erika allegedly waiting on the tarmac for Andrew Colvett to arrive when she's allegedly prepared to go to the hospital to see her deceased husband, and she waits over an hour. It's like, these are just things that you don't do.
You don't do.
I mean,
straight up.
Anybody who's, even if you've just had a significant other, you don't even have to be married to know. If they are in jeopardy, there's nothing that's going to stop you from getting to them.
That's right.
Immediately. So I don't know, man. I've studied it a lot. I mean, just go down some of the things. I mean, the 30-06 angle makes absolutely no sense. I'm not some professional hunter or anything, but I've shot a lot of guns, and sorry, I don't buy that. Then on top of that, you've got this 30-06, which gets dismantled. It's a Mauser 98, fires 30-06, gets dismantled, left in the woods over there. They have a gun dog, like a sniffer, right? Walks right past it. This is the alleged murder weapon. Just got fired less than an hour prior. And you've got a trained dog that doesn't spot it. But it does get spotted after the feds arrive. I'm just saying. And then add it into it the fact that every assassination, like every high level political assassination in American history, it's never the story that we're told. Ever. Yeah. But this is the one time. That we're not allowed to question it.
And it's another one that's on video too. And now it's in the modern era, unlike Kennedy, where there's only one angle. We have all these different angles. They had the camera rigged up behind him as well in like 4K that I think, did I see that Candace Owens got a hold of some of that footage?
Yeah, she did.
I'm not making that up.
No,
that's
she
real.
did.
So she actually got that. And it looks strange. Because at 30, again, I'm going off of the really smart gun guys that know a lot more about that than I do. But most of those guys that I've either talked with or heard break it down who I don't know online, they're like, it would have blown, it literally would have taken at that distance his head off of his neck. There would be nothing left.
Well,
hey guys, 3 quick things. Number 1, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's a huge, huge help. Number 2, if you'd like to join my Patreon for early uncensored releases of the full episodes, you can join via the link in my description or in the pinned comment below. And number 3, if you'd like to join my clipping community for a chance to make content from the show and make money, you can join via the Discord link in my description below.
I'm not sure that it would have actually done that, but it would have done enough damage that it's not what you see there. Like, I mean, from the rear view, you can see his body shake, obviously, because he is struck with something. But just the fact that round doesn't penetrate is shocking beyond belief. I mean, the neck, it's not even angled at his spine, first off. It's angled at his neckline. You would think that it would have just gone through and through. Yeah. But it didn't, which is why a lot of people believe that there was a charge underneath his shirt with the microphone. I'm not so sure about that. That was kind of my original hypothesis. I've come off of that now, but I'm still very much open to all ideas. And then really, once you study his evolution, ideologically, politically, speaking out against, October 7th was when he really started to get a lot of hate because he went on PBD and he said it very, very boldly. He's like, I'm not buying it. I've been there. Patrick. I think he said something like that.
You see how he said it too? He like, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use word. Like he was really fucking struggling with it. I remember that.
Well, and because he knew. Yeah. I mean, he knows he's not supposed to be saying that.
Yeah.
But he also knows that it's so obvious that he would be he'd be a liar if he didn't at least point it out. Like, you've got, in my opinion, probably the most highly defended or defensible border in the world, next to North Korea, and you got dudes on paragliders like coming across like Ewoks and spending hours taking out people before you have any serious military response. How is that even possible? So Charlie Kirk just asked the obvious question. He didn't make an allegation. He didn't say it definitively, but he was just like, this doesn't sit right with me. The same thing that a lot of us are doing when it comes to his own assassination, right? And I think that's the honorable thing to do. I don't think it makes you a bad person. This is why I've been a defender of Candace Owens and Baron Coleman. I've had him on my show. I like the guy a lot. I think these are genuine people that are very inquisitive and they're digging for the truth. It doesn't mean they get everything right, and I wouldn't go about it the same way that some of them have. But I appreciate it because I don't trust the FBI. Why would I? I don't trust the local sheriff's office. Like, what are we talking about? Why do we trust any of these people? We just had the Epstein cover-up, and you're telling me to shut up about the highest level political assassination of my lifetime? I can't assume a guy who was getting funded by Israel donors to the tune of massive amounts of money. Massive. And he flips on them publicly, says, I want the Epstein files released. He says, I don't trust the story with October 7th. And then he dies 60 days later, and I can't connect those dots.
Absolutely, you should be able to connect those, and that was the thing. I'm similar. Well, I don't know if you were referring to Candace, but I never have been a huge fan of Candace's style on how she does things. It's just me. It's a different taste. I've talked about that in the past. But the fact that she was drawing some lines between all of the buildup, specifically in what you said, and especially the last 60 days, be it what he said to Dave Smith for an hour conversation off camera, before that debate in July, I think with the Josh Hammer guy, be it the meeting in the Hamptons that was certainly strange to say the least, be it the donors pooling money, like you said, 2 days before, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, fucks like a duck, it's usually a duck, or at least it has a good chance of being a duck or a demented fucking goose. I don't know.
Well, and then you also have his text messages.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, in the 24 to 48 hours prior, he's sending both to his security team saying he thinks he's going to get taken out, or going to be killed. Candace has alleged this repeatedly. And then you also have him basically doubling down and saying, I have no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause. He says this 48 hours before he catches a bullet. And we're all supposed to be like, no connection. You're a lunatic if you think there's a connection. He was being funded by massive Zionist donors, both American and Israeli. And then 48 hours prior, he says, I'm out. I can't do this. And he dies. It's the most obvious motive that exists. I'm sorry. It is. That doesn't mean that that's why or how he got murdered. That doesn't mean that. But if you're not going to allow the public to at least have that discussion, you're just lying to them. Like, they have to be able to discuss that. So that's why I like Candace.
That's the point sometimes.
How
they
so?
want it. People that are very strong, hardcore pro-Israel people kind of want to create that narrative to where it's them against the world, because then it creates some sort of synergistic bond, which is a fucked up way of doing it, to be very clear. But do you ever wonder if that's the point?
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot when it comes to the lead up to World War II as well. I mean, a lot of people believe that there was a real desire to get Jewish people fearful so that they would move to Israel. I haven't studied it enough to make that claim definitively, but
that's the thing. You get powerful people in any group who decide that they're above everyone else. They'll use all their own people to start with as pawns completely. And we've seen that in history again and again. If that were the case with something like that, where there were even some small role that some people could have played to try to create an end mean or an end goal like that, then that's dark as fuck. I mean, it's hard because they let millions of their people die for that.
Well, yeah, it's evil beyond words, but I mean, this is not pure, armchair conspiracy theorizing. You have the Balfour Declaration. I mean, you have the most wealthy Zionist banking family, the Rothschilds, that are essentially being offered this land as recompense for being the financiers in the World War, and they got their country. And the crazy thing is that it was promised to, I think, the Turks and maybe the Egyptians. That landmass was promised. It's like no one even cared about the Palestinians that was there already. I mean, it was just crazy. But I mean, that's how you. I think that's really how the world works, though. It's not so much about, they say possession's 9/10 the law. Like, bullshit it is. Like, power is 9/10 the law, really.
Yeah, that other 10th is a big 10th.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the real 10th. That's the one that counts.
Yeah, it's some COVID math 10th.
Yeah,
if you will.
Oh, speaking of, Rand Paul said that we've got, I believe, 6 days left until the statute of limitations runs out on Anthony Fauci for lying to Congress.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's going quietly under the radar.
Yep.
There's nothing worse than walking outside in the wet rain, or even in some cases the snow, and immediately getting wet, freezing socks because you're wearing very cheap $2 buys down low. You know how it is. Socks are often something many of us skirt the details on. And then you regret it later because when it's cold out, your feet are freezing, but when it warms up, they turn into a sauna. Regular socks basically guarantee your feet are going to feel terrible no matter what the weather is, which is why you need to check out my friends over at Hollow Socks. Hollow Socks are premium alpaca socks, built for both cold and warm weather, long days on your feet, and everything in between. They're made out of ultra soft baby alpaca fiber, and they're also very thermoregulating. Warm when it's cold, breathable when it's warm. Best of all, they're also odorless. Alpaca fibers make bacterial growth difficult, which reduces the root cause of most foot odor. You can wear these things anywhere. On the job, doing yard work, hiking, tailgates, camping, travel days, the office, early morning walks with your dog. You're even gonna like wearing them around the house because they're just so damn comfortable. Hollow Socks is an exploding brand built right here in the USA that's trusted by athletes and has over 3 million pairs sold. And they don't make just one kind of sock. They've built a sock for every adventure. They have their everyday socks, which are exactly what they sound like. Their hunt socks, which are designed for cold mornings. Their trade socks, which are built for 12 to 14 hour days in boots, on the job site, or in the field. And they also have their compression socks. Right now, for a limited time, Hollow Socks is having a buy two, get two free sale. So head on over to hollowsocks.com and check it out today. That link is in my description below. That's hollowsocks.com for up to 50% off your order. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them I sent you.
I wouldn't even known if he hadn't posted about it today and yesterday. But
see, that's the smallest charge too of charges you could or should bring against that guy.
No kidding.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, imagine. I don't know if I can safely say this. You can beat me if you need to, Deep. But I mean,
I think we crossed that bridge about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Fair point. To me, this has all been rather tepid, but
listen, I'm just a YouTuber. What are you going to do?
Look, I mean, Fauci obviously created a bioweapon. He funded a bioweapon. I'm not saying that
the gain of function stuff.
Yeah, the gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, like that was banned under Obama.
Yeah,
it was banned. It was illegal, and he still found a way. DARPA even rejected that funding program. They thought it was too dangerous, and then it was banned domestically. So they were forced to offshore it, And that's the reason it ended up in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But that work began in Canada. It began in the United States. I mean, it is a decade-plus long program. And Fauci was in charge of that for those decades. He's been basically in that position since the 80s or something crazy like that. So he knew all of it. I mean, to believe that the guilt, the highest level of guilt that Anthony Fauci holds is that he lied to Congress, you got to be out of your fucking mind. Like, he's responsible for the death of millions of people. He's responsible for the transfer of the largest amount of human wealth in history. Like, that's what the lockdowns were. They transferred trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars from the poor and middle class to the wealthiest amongst us. And it hasn't stopped. It's still tilting further away because young people can't afford houses, and that's not changing. And that's because the currency was debased because of the spending bill that they passed in 2020.
And then you think about everything that happened in the 11, 12 years before that, quantitative easing and just inflating away the currency, even before you get to a huge moment like that where they go,
yep.
You know, I used to have this quote that I didn't invent. Someone way smarter than me invented this, but I would repeat it all the time when I worked on Wall Street and was talking with people about money. I'm like, the really shitty reality that you learn is that it takes money to make money. So you just go back to 08, 09 financial crisis, for example. Look at the people who recovered by 2012, 2013, and were doing okay. Those are people that, they lost a lot of money percentage-wise on the way down like everyone else, but they had enough of a nut to start with. They didn't lose their whole 401k and have to start at zero and then be able to make nothing in the twilight years heading into retirement.
Well, I came out of college in 08, right in the teeth of the recession.
No shit.
Yeah, and I was a mortgage broker, so I was actually responsible for liquidating foreclosed assets. So I saw the absolute worst of it, and it was terrible.
Liquidating foreclosed assets.
Yeah, which is AKA kicking people out of their homes and selling them to recoup the lender's money.
What's that like, having to go up to someone? You have a job to do, right? Someone couldn't pay their mortgage. The home is now no longer theirs according to the contract of the bank, no matter how unfair this is. And the system certainly was unfair in a way. But like, what's that like, being a 22, 23-year-old kid and you got to walk up to some family and be like, yeah, you're going to leave?
It's awful. I mean, it's awful. Obviously, I still, like, particularly because I worked for a private lender, so the people that were lending out that money, they were retirees. Like, this wasn't conventional lending where you had a banker that might take a loss or a haircut. You know, these were like retired people that if they don't get their money back, they may starve. You know? So I had a fiduciary responsibility to them to make sure that I defended their capital. So as bad as it made me feel to have to, get the sheriff to come kick people out periodically, usually people would agree voluntarily to leave, but anytime it went down to the wire like that, it felt terrible. It felt awful. Yeah. But really what it did to me was it radicalized me against central banking, because I saw firsthand the human carnage that it creates.
Can you explain that more? Like, what about that in particularly made you so radical against the central banking?
Well, because central banking is kind of a nebulous concept for most people. You don't actually see the homeless person created by the fiat process, right? This took the theoretical kind of Austrian school, which is what I come from, in the libertarian vein, and it just made it very real to me.
So you were already libertarian at that time?
Yeah.
Coming out of college.
Second-gen libertarian. My dad...
Second.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So very, very rare. My dad actually ran for Congress twice in the 90s in San Diego.
Wow.
He didn't win, obviously, because he ran as a libertarian, but I knew about Ron Paul in the 90s. I was a big Ron Paulian guy.
Wow.
And then when the Ron Paul revolution came about, I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. It's happening. Didn't actually happen, but there was a moment there. I think Thomas Massie's the next guy, but maybe we can get into that later.
Yeah.
But anyways, the thing about the central banking is like, so I understood kind of intuitively what happens when you debase the currency, but I didn't understand, experientially. I didn't actually get to like feel it, see it. And once I saw it, it was like, oh man, this is not theoretical anymore. Like, this is a really big deal. And it's the lowest amongst us, the worst off amongst us that suffer the most as a consequence of the monopoly that is central banking. And then I started to do the studying into what created the bubble. And then you can watch Ron Paul's videos. Maybe you can drop one in here from, I think, 05, 06. He's warning about the real estate bubble, and he's explaining very explicitly that it's all a product of maintaining interest rates too low for too long, which is what the Fed chair, I think it was Bernanke at the time, was guilty of. And
he became chair, I want to say, in 07. Maybe I made that up. We should check that. But yeah,
so it
Bernanke was the chair when it was going on.
Yeah. I mean, during the collapse, I know it was Bernanke, may have been Greenspan. Regardless, they're all guilty of the same thing. But point being, you keep rates low that long, and then that was even prior to the QE concept. Like they weren't really debasing the currency heavily pre-08. It got crazy after 08, and we thought that it could never get any worse. Little did we know that would be the least printing that we've seen in the rest of our lives, because as soon as 2020 rolls around, we start printing to the tune of trillions. So and I think the bailout in 08, which was the biggest economic crisis that I thought I'd live through, was $800 billion. We're now doing that during peacetime, during positive economic times. We're doing more than that today. It's insane.
Bonkers.
It's insane.
You know what I can't get over? I remember when I would follow the markets when I was in college, 2014, 2015. And, it would make sense when the economy took a step back, like if there'd be a period where gas prices went way up or things like that. The stock market, maybe not lockstep day by day, but it would follow in percentage points, because it was still at that point somewhat, air quotes, representative of the real economy of real people. What you've seen since COVID, and you actually saw it by the end of March with COVID when the stock market took the big bump up and no one could lose, is that the stock market, to me, and I'm just saying this from 30,000 feet in the air without going into specific details to get myself in trouble, but it has decorrelated from the average man's economic interests.
Exactly.
Case in point right now, gas is sitting at fucking $6 a gallon, whatever it is. It hurts. I mean, you go to the fucking gas station, I'm like, holy shit, filling up the tank. Yet the stock market is up right now. Because the people that are most participating and who have bought the largest percentage of it and have the biggest opportunity to make money are the people who that affects the least, because they got private jets and it costs a little more, but their interest is going to pay for it.
Well, and here's the real dark aspect of this, is that people may not like this, that they should. If they understood economics properly, they would love this. When the government does bad things, the economy should hurt. Like that actually that if you're functioning in a healthy way, if the government decides to lock down the global economy, there should be rationing and extraordinary pricing and all sorts of crazy things, because that's the market trying to adapt to the intervention that the government has forced upon us. But the government has now basically written itself a blank check, where they passed, I believe it was $4 trillion in spending in 2020, that it was basically just put a bull market into what should have been a depression. I mean, that's so psychotic, I can't even put it into words. And then it also, because it buoys the system, it makes you feel as if things are better than they really are. You don't understand how much of a price you're ultimately paying. So it allows for the righteous anger that should be directed at our Congress, at the president, at our local governors, who were the real, dictators when it came to the lockdown portion of things. It allows for them to get away with murder, and sometimes literally, because it disconnects the causality. It makes it so you don't actually see that, hey, I can't eat because of these lockdowns, which is what should have happened. And it's unfortunate, because they're smart. I mean, there's one thing you got to give them credit, is that they know how to get away with, the largest transfer of wealth in human history and the death of millions, and we all just move on like it never even happened.
There was this book in 2018 I've talked about a bunch before, since the beginning of recording the podcast, earliest episodes, but Steven Pinker wrote Enlightenment Now. Obviously Pinker gets shit because he knew Epstein, like fucking seemingly every person at Harvard. But the book nonetheless is a very interesting concept and really good, because basically what he's doing is he's making a case overall, not in 5-year periods or 10-year periods, but just over the past, I forget, it's been a while, but maybe the past 4,000 years of human history, just measuring basic metrics around the world globally of like statistics about the quality of life that people have. Could be sustenance, access to water, access to housing, whatever. And every chart, it's not like they go like this over time. They go like this, but they go up.
Yep.
And they go way up. And his point was that we're in some moments right now where it doesn't feel like things are the best they've ever been, yet statistically overall they are, and we have to fix a few things. But to his credit, one of the things that he was extremely concerned about that I think about literally once a day, every day, is he went and pulled this chart basically from the beginning of the 1980s on, that I'm going to oversimplify right now because I don't have it in front of me, but essentially was showing the death of the middle class. It showed a giant V form, slowly at first, and then wider and wider as the years went on, when it showed the wealth gap between, maybe it was like the bottom 97% and the top 3, something like that. And when you see that, you realize that these inflationary type, they're not laws, these policies they put in, if you will, willy-nilly. These are the things that caused this. That's like the common denominator.
That's the most important point right there. This is what all the socialists in America get wrong, is that they see income inequality and they say it's capitalism. Every libertarian looks at income inequality and they go, well, is it naturally derived income inequality that's based off of effort and a meritocratic system, or is it income inequality that's being created because of central banking, because of cronyism, because of adjacency to the government, proximity? And the answer is obviously the latter. The income inequality is created because if you want to be the richest people on earth, even Elon, who I've got a lot of respect for, he's the richest man in human history because of his government contracts.
Yes.
Like, he's not where he's at without that.
Right.
Not to say that he wouldn't be very wealthy and very successful without going down the government contractor route, but let's just be honest.
You're right.
He's not the richest man in human history if he didn't do that. And that's the same thing with almost every major Fortune 500 company. They've got some sort of government contract or some sort of intelligence agency tie going to In-Q-Tel, the funding that starts many of these corporations from,
Palantir.
Palantir. By the way, their first and only client for many years was the DOD. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, that's a private corporation?
Nothing to see there.
Really? Right. But yeah, this is what's creating the income inequality, is that it's just like, it's actually much more in alignment with the fascism described by Mussolini, that it's the embedding of state and corporate power, or the wedding of the two.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think that's really what we're living through. And this is not to say that I'm anti-capitalism. I'm not. I'm arguing that this is not capitalism, that we're doing it wrong. Like, you can't even have a free market. You can't have proper market signals as long as you have a fiat currency. It's just nonsensical. Obviously, if you have a capacity to undermine and print, at infinitum, you're never going to be able to get a proper market signal. And the ripple effects that creates through the rest of the economy. That's ultimately why I shut down my mortgage company, by the way, is that I recognized that I could no longer forecast into the future properly, because I was like, this is all bullshit.
When was that? What year did you shut it down?
2020.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You remember, obviously, you were in it, like the housing market fucking boomed of people just buying houses and value going up at the time that the world should be taking a shit, like you said.
Yeah, well, that's why I got out, because I thought the world should be taking a shit.
Yep.
Because if you shut down, people forget this, but we shut down like half of the economy.
Yes.
It was extraordinary. So in a regular free market system, you would have, it should have been a depression, but at minimum, a severe recession. Severe. Mm-hmm. The most severe we've ever experienced. Far surpassing 08, 09. But we didn't get that.
That would have been a depression then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it should have been.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, because they printed $4 trillion and they tried to pass it without a vote. Thomas Massie was the only congressman that stood up.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Summer of 2020. He said, I stand in this room today to make sure democracy or something like that doesn't die in darkness. It's profound if he wants to pull it up. But they were trying to pass the largest spending bill in human history.
Without a vote. How does that even work? That's like against the Constitution completely.
Well, it was because of the lockdowns. They had special rules that were in place.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah, well, they didn't.
Oh, that's why we got to talk about that FISA thing later. It just made me think of that. Real quick, Deep, before we play the Massie one, can we actually play the Ron Paul one that Clint suggested? This is Ron Paul in like 05, 06, basically calling what happened with the housing market.
Yep.
07.
Okay. Oh, so it's the year prior.
Yeah, right before.
I mean, but he had been doing it for 05, 06, 07.
All right, let's see this.
The Federal Reserve. Instead, Congress chooses to blame the analysts for misleading investors. The analysts may not be entirely blameless, but their role in creating the bubble is minimal compared to the misleading information that the Federal Reserve has provided with artificially low interest rates and a financial market made flush with generous new credit at every sign of correction over the past 10 years.
Yep.
By preventing the liquidation of bad debt and the elimination of malinvestment and overcapacity, the Federal Reserve's actions have kept the financial bubble inflated. Of course, it's an easy choice on the short run. Who would deliberately allow the market tendency to deflate back to stability? That would be politically unacceptable. Talk of sound money and balanced budgets is just that. When the economy sinks, the rhetoric for sound policy and a strong dollar may continue, but all actions by the Congress and the Fed will be directed toward reinflation and a congressional spending policy oblivious to all the promises regarding a balanced budget and the preservation of Social Security and Medicare trust funds. But if the Fed and its chairman, Alan Greenspan, have been able to guide us out of every potential crisis all the way back to the stock market crash of 1987, why shouldn't we expect the same to happen once again? Mainly because there's a limit to how long the monetary charade can be perpetuated.
Yep.
Now it looks like the international financial system built on paper money is coming to an end. Modern day globalism, since gold demise 30 years ago, has been based on a purely fiat U.S. dollar with all other currencies tied.
You were too young to really understand what he was saying back then, I bet.
International redistribution and management of wealth through the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO have promoted this new version of globalism. This type of globalism depends on trusting central bankers to maintain currency values and the international institutions to manage trade equitably while bailing out weak currency.
Yeah, he's cooking. There's a lot on the bone there. But what he's saying has now played out on an exponential basis compared to when he was saying it.
Right, because he was giving kind of a shorter horizon warning, and he, mind you, for the audience's sake, he was right a year later. He absolutely nailed the timing on that. But it's only gotten much worse, and thank God Dr. Paul's still with us. But this is why he's such a almost deified figure in our movement, is that his predictions, based off of our philosophy and our ideology, they've just been proven right time and time again. Yeah. Compare that to the Fed's predictions and prognosticating, and see who's got the better track record. I assure you, it's the Austrians. So that's, anyways. Because I come from this school of thought and I went into the mortgage field, you can understand the confluence of those two factors in my life, how formative that would be to see the human carnage that it creates, already understanding the kind of duplicitousness that is central banking from its inception,
right,
and already rejecting that kind of on a fundamental level. But then to actually, see the human pain is just like, it takes you from theoretically hating to being radicalized.
Well, you're also you're actually paying attention to it, even if you're not living in the middle of Kensington, Philadelphia. You understand what this is because you've clearly for many years you saw it up close with the housing crisis for sure, literally at the front doors. But now you track what that does to the rest of society and the people on the edges, which is most of us, by the way, as far as not being in the 1%. And it's almost like that concept, it's so dark, but it's completely true what you say about these guys will just make these decisions because they don't have to look or they don't have to go visit about how it affects people downstream.
Yep.
And it's all the same every time, whether you're talking about bankers who just on a Tuesday have some meeting with 13 of them in a closed room and be like, yeah, let's make rates fucking 5% instead of 3% today. And then, 100 million people or 100 people commit suicide a week later because of that for some reason, because it affects their life and they lose their job, they don't feel it.
No.
Anthony Fauci says, wear your mask from behind a fucking desk somewhere, talking to Anderson Cooper on CNN while they have death counters on the side, and then people lock themselves inside. They become drug addicts because they have no purpose in life and they lost their job and lost everything. He doesn't have to see that death. But he is an indirect cause of it in a way. It's the same story every time.
Yeah, well, I would even argue he's a direct cause.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, like it's the causality is challenging to, prove in a court of law.
Right.
But it's very hard to argue that there aren't inherently going to be trade-offs when you lock down the economy, when you make children social distance. The psychological effects are still being felt by that generation. I've got two younger or half brothers, and I think they were graduating high school in 2020, or they were like juniors or seniors. I mean, it fucked up that whole generation bad, dude. And like, I don't think that they've recovered, honestly. And I don't think we've really felt the consequences from that intervention. But really the other really important thing to note is that because the currency is predicated off of, as you said, those 12 guys sitting around the table. It's worse than that, really, because they set interest rates, but they also add to the currency supply too, periodically. But the paradigm that creates is that because you expect your purchasing power to diminish annually, it requires you to deploy capital into riskier and riskier assets. That's what Dr. Paul was talking about with malinvestment. So if you don't allow for the economy to ever correct, which is what they did in 2020, it should have been a major correction. Yep. It creates more and more malinvestment. And I would argue that the most rife market for malinvestment at this current junction is going to be AI. And people are going to look back on this. And I promise you, I will look like I'm Ron Paul a few years from now, because yes, there will be a winner or two, but there is going to be trillions that are wasted in that, because
Internet bubble shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be the 01 collapse, and
I totally agree.
It's just a given. It's a given.
Yeah, it reminds me of a way bigger version of like the whole 2017, early 2018 blockchain buzz. Just stick blockchain on it.
Yeah.
What does it do? Don't worry about it.
Yeah. They don't even know. Something. They don't have a fucking clue.
They got no clue. And it's like, there's some sort of use case for this that's great. But most people are like, blockchain this, blockchain that. And you're like, yeah, I feel like that's like Fairdest,
Yeah.
It's like out there.
And just to, clarify, I think AI is going to revolutionize the world in a lot of ways that are very positive and a lot of very, very scary ways.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that it's like,
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify, because I'm not like, AI is way overhyped and it's not going to do much. Like, no, I think it's going to change fucking everything. But that doesn't mean that all these investments are prudent. And it doesn't mean that these investments would be getting made at the scale that they are if not for their adjacency, their access to capital, thanks to central banking. So the malinvestment, the bubble that it's creating, is going to hurt a lot of people. And it's just a story that we live through over and over again. But the real key that I keep trying to get back to is that because you expect your currency to be debased every year, it forces you to invest. What's the one thing that has kept, like, particularly the boomer generation, above water? Housing. That was the one thing that they were able to get access to turn all of these middle class or upper middle class people into the upper class, oftentimes, because they bought a home for $40,000 back in 1975 and they retired in 2020 and they're millionaires. This generation can't fucking do that. They can't get a starter home. Where I'm from in San Diego, a starter home's $750,000.
It's insane.
Like, you got to basically be a millionaire to get a home to try and keep your head above water. So this is why Dr. Paul is really right now. That, as you said, that was 2007. This is almost 20 years later. We're way longer in the tooth now.
Pure spec right here.
Sure.
But if I wanted to long-term control population and society, I would inflate away money to the point that people would not be able to own anything and that children themselves would be a financial decision. That would be the number one way I would do it.
Well, pure spec, you're right. That's exactly what they've done. I believe that that's exactly what's happening. especially when you tie into kind of the World Economic Forum, a lot of the rhetoric that comes out of those.
I'm a big fan of those people. They're great.
Yeah,
They're
sure.
awesome.
Just trying to keep your YouTube channel alive.
Fuck you, Klaus.
Yeah, right.
Who's not even there allegedly. I think his spirit's still there.
Yeah, well, he got such bad PR.
Well, he left his vegan daughter behind. Like, she's still there.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. She does something. We can look it up, Dave. But I'm not a fan of the Schwabs.
But the point I was getting to was that the World Economic Forum, like a lot of their speakers, they talked about that pretty openly.
Yes.
Population bomb, or like the dangers that come with population increasing, and just everything that goes along with the fiat system requires population increase, because it's all based off of Social Security. All these things are essentially Ponzi schemes. If you don't have as many or more people paying into them annually to maintain the benefits to the people who are no longer paying into it, well, then the Ponzi ends.
Yes.
Naturally, right? So you have these people who believe that the population must decline, but simultaneously want central banking to, dictate everything. And it's like, all right, well, then the only conclusion I can come to is that you're trying to starve and destroy us.
Yes.
Because that's the inevitable conclusion of these dual actions that you're taking.
Here's what I don't understand, Clint, and it goes back to a similar point we were making earlier about what is the point of all this? Like, why would you do this stuff? Back in the day, the WEFs of the world, they met in their private Davos retreats. There weren't even paparazzi allowed there, let alone rolling cameras. Now they put rolling cameras everywhere to even catch like the Indian like huddle dances and shit that they have in between their breakout sessions. And they say these things, almost like turning to the camera and saying it right there, that they know are going to get clipped to shit on social media so that millions of people around the world can see, but they still say it. They still do it openly. Like, I don't know if it's like some sort of 5D chess thing, or if they're literally saying, yeah, fuck you. We're going to do all this and you ain't going to do shit about it. You're even going to know about it, but you're not going to do shit about it.
Right. Well, you can read it a couple ways, and this is actually what I think about all the time, because I'm not sure. But you can go down the Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson route. Like, these are demonically possessed people. Like, that's a distinct possibility, as crazy as it sounds. But like, it's so irrational what they're doing, and it so obviously puts a target on their back from the masses as they wake up to what's happening. Like, it's very dangerous what they're doing, to just be like out in the open, like, yeah, we want you to have less kids. It's like, you're my enemy, dude.
Right.
As soon as you say anything fucking close to that, you're not just my enemy, you're my mortal enemy.
I agree.
Like, forever.
Yep.
You're trying to end my bloodline.
Yes.
That's genocidal. I mean,
Yes.
That's genocidal rhetoric, right? And they say so proudly. So the fact that they say it so brazenly makes you conclude either they're demonically possessed, they're ideologically possessed, clearly, or, and this is probably the scariest option, is that they believe that they have the panopticon in place.
The panopticon.
Yeah. The technocratic panopticon, it's basically a control structure that controls everything. That the AI interface is paired with robotics and surveillance and everything else, that they believe that a revolution is already been subdued. That we cannot, we can't successfully rise up. I doubt it. I doubt that they're right about that. But I would say 10 years from now, they'll probably be right about that.
Well, here's the issue that I think about, because I don't know the answer, but you look at the research of people like Annie Jacobson when she was writing books about DARPA a decade ago, in people that she talked to, they were telepathically talking to dolphins in 1992.
Yeah.
When do you think they got their basic chat GPT? 95? You know what I mean?
Right.
Which means if they had it in 95, are we just already living through their fucking hellscape simulation right now? We don't even know it. Like, we're just video game nodes, and like Klaus Schwab's like, oh, fuck these people from the Men in Black suite. Like, what are we doing?
Man, the programmer's got a sixth sense of humor if we're already in the simulation.
I guess so.
Look, it's possible. I mean, Elon even said, he's like, odds favorite.
I don't like how he says that.
No, I don't either.
No.
But he's right. I mean, if there's ever going to be one that exists, odds are that we do exist in it already. It's like my belief in God. I choose to not believe that. I think I like that. It's very nihilistic.
I agree.
So I'm just like, I reject that. No, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like, and this might sound dumb, but like, if it were actually all for nothing, I wouldn't want to know because I wouldn't live my life the way I live it. Because it's like life is the coolest thing ever. Like it's just the coolest fucking thing ever. And I would rather live in that one respect than some ignorant bliss.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I view it. And I think that's how like any healthy ideology has to take that into consideration. Like even if certain things are true, does accepting them and making them your outlook actually benefit your life?
Right.
And it's like, maybe simulation theory is true, but it's not going to make me fucking happy, or it's not going to make me more productive. That's for sure. So I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Have you seen some of these guys like the Elons, what they've been coming out and saying in recent years about, 2027-ish? You seen any of this?
Well, go ahead and refresh my memory.
There's a tweet I gave Deep. Do we have it? So this was a rehash of some things that Elon said in a Lex Friedman interview. And there's something in this tweet where they say some lines were deleted. I don't know if that means he like YouTube edited it or something, but if you go to the top, Deep, I just want to... After 2027, there will be no way back. Elon Musk said this in a podcast with Lex Friedman, a line that was later cut. When asked why, he fell silent for almost a minute.
Fuck, that's a scary minute.
Then he quietly said, shout out to Lex for letting him sit there with that, though. It's pretty heavy. Then he quietly said, it's not a catastrophe, it's a transition. The transcript left behind 3 themes that gave him away: autonomous intelligence, loss of meaning, and energy independence. It all sounded like a forecast, but now reads like a diagnosis of the era. The first sign is the collapse of attention. Musk said humanity will stop thinking in cycles. Planning for the future will shrink to the horizon of updates. That line hits me hard. People will stop building and start simply replacing. MIT research confirms a generation born after 2000 holds attention for about 8 seconds, less than a goldfish. I used to say that to Alessi, but he's gotten a lot better now. Musk called this cultural Alzheimer's. We're not losing memory, we're losing the ability to think. The second sign is artificial intelligence that no longer obeys. Musk says when a system starts correcting humans, that time of linear logic is over. Even now, algorithms decide who we date, what we buy, and what we think about. This isn't a machine uprising, it's dissolution into convenience. People won't notice the moment when choice becomes an option, not a right. The third sign is energy dependence. Musk explains civilization can no longer survive even a day without electricity. By 2027, here it is, in his view, the balance will shift. Energy will become currency and control over it will become power. From that moment on, everything non-autonomous will disappear. This isn't an apocalypse, it's a change of biological form. At the end, he said a line that didn't make it on air. Technology is stronger than us, but not smarter. As long as we have meaning, we are alive. Lose it and we become code. Then, after a pause, he added, we must learn to be human before systems learn to be gods.
Fuck.
Are you ready for the transition or already living in a world where choices are made for you?
Dude, those are some banger lines.
I know. There's another clip that's going around of Eric Weinstein, who I've never met. I never know what fully to make of him. He's like so close to Peter Thiel and all that, but he's on with Diary of a CEO, I guess in an interview in like the last year, and it's like a funny delivery because it's almost like, I guess Steven.
Oh, you're talking about the "It's Over" clip?
Yeah, where he's like, I got this line for people.
Yeah.
They say, I'm moving to Nashville. It's over. I'm moving to San Diego. Over.
Exactly.
Austin.
Dude.
Over. He goes, 2 years, 2027.
Yep.
Get ready.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what are you saying? You sit next to Peter Thiel. What the fuck are you saying, bro?
I know. Well, and you think Elon doesn't know Thiel as well?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He knows him very fucking. They go all the way back.
Well, and then add to that, I know Brett pretty well. Brett Weinstein, Eric's brother.
Yeah.
Love the guy, by the way. He's awesome. But he tragically shares my dire outlook, and I think a lot of this is like, once you see these patterns and you see the people that are essentially dictating these policies. And by the way, as much as I love that Elon does these rants and gives us these warnings periodically, you have to add to that. Elon is adding to this massively.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pushing the AI edge very hard. The whole Grok interface is essentially like self-training artificial intelligence that's going to replace us. It's like, it's always fascinating when you have someone who seems, and I take him at his word that he seems sincerely interested in humanity and survival and, making us interplanetary and all these other great things.
In his own neurodivergent way.
Right.
Yeah.
But then he's also like, he's also adding fuel to this. I guess maybe he just views it as inevitable. So he's like, I'm better than these other lunatic billionaires that are getting involved. So you'd prefer me to be the guy at the top? I don't know. I'd love to ask him that question, because it just seems like he sees all of the dangers that are coming from some of the things that he's creating, but he doesn't stop. And nobody that's involved in AI seems to stop, or almost nobody does, even though many of them are openly discussing, like, we don't know that we're not creating the Antichrist. Like, we don't know, but we're just going to keep going.
We're just going to keep
It's
going.
like the fucking Manhattan Project on steroids.
Yeah. On a lot of steroids.
Yeah, it's scary. So,
Did you ever read Superintelligence by Bostrom?
No, don't think so.
Heavy read. Came out in like 2018. Not a fun read. Important read. He basically, this guy's a genius, and he made a bunch of decision trees of all the possibilities of artificial intelligence.
Oh, interesting.
Like, he just went fucking nuts. And one of the lead proponents of the book, and I think it was actually the reason I went and read it, was Elon Musk. His name's like in the cover writing about it, because he was warning about AI so much at the time.
Yep.
And this book is a dire warning about the possibilities of AI that aren't good. And I kind of wonder where, when you see stuff like this, where that attitude moved from, on Elon Musk's part, moved from fear and let's stop this to like acceptance. Fuck it, you know?
That's the read I get from him, is that he's just like, this is inevitable, so I'm going to try and bring it about in a way that's as beneficial to humanity as possible. And he may be right about that. Yeah. Like, I just want to be very clear. He's almost certainly more intelligent than me. That doesn't mean he's a better person than me, though. Like,
no,
we're banking on him being a better person than me, though, because he's going to have a fuck of a lot more power than I'm ever going to have. So it's really important that he's actually as good a person as he markets himself to be periodically. He gives me more reason to have faith in him than Peter Thiel, who, when asked by Duthat, the New York Times reporter, do you think humanity should survive? And fucking Peter Thiel does that minute long pregnant pause that Lex Friedman allowed for, I mean, if you struggle to answer that question, I don't shoot fucking anywhere near the levers of power. And it kills me, because Peter Thiel was a libertarian, and I want to like Peter Thiel, but my God, dude, if you can't answer that question, fuck you.
When I was like really into the VC space and learning all about that, and like obsessed with technology and how we were building it, certainly saw drawbacks to it as well, but it was like, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff. He was like the hero of that space. And then in the last 3-4 years, when you start to actually look at what the guy's doing, not just in tech, but like where his opinions are, the people he lines up with, the things they're doing. Even before we got to the Epstein stuff, it was like, damn, I remember reading 0 to 1 and thinking this guy spit. Now I'm thinking it's just fucking, I was an idiot and this is just propaganda. It's hard not to wonder that. Like, was he ever a libertarian? I doubt it.
I don't know. I mean, then you've also got, Jack, the former CEO of Twitter, now X.
He's quiet.
He's very quiet, but I'm just saying, like he censored us into oblivion, or he permitted it. But then even on that platform, years after he's like stepped down, he's posting fucking Rothbard Anatomy of the State and doing all these dog whistles to my libertarian brethren. And I'm just like, how are you guys, how can you see and like the things that I like and not have had the backbone to fucking not censor us during the most important time maybe ever, during the lockdown era? Like, how is that possible?
I've had a theory about Jack for a long time. I'd never met the guy. I'd love to off air be like, come on, tell me.
Yeah.
He never would. But, it doesn't change the fact that he was a part of there for so many bad decisions and clearly ended up like getting it wrong as the guy where the buck stops, at least publicly. But I actually thought that Jack really believed a lot of this freedom stuff and thought that if he would just kind of throw everyone else out in the fire who was actually the root cause of all the woke, like, censorship bullshit by acting like he's their friend, people would see it. And it was like this 5D chess thing. I don't know if I'm right about that, but a good example would be when he had the whole thing with where they did the debate with Tim Pool in 2019. Yep. So that was like maybe 4 or 5 months or something like that after he went on, and then people flipped out because Joe like didn't ask him some questions, and Joe was like, all right, no problem, brought on Tim Pool to like rail against everything that was said. And it was basically like my cousin Vinny, everything that guy said, bullshit. And then Jack hit up Joe and said, yo, let's do a debate on this. But Jack brought that chick. I forget her name now. It's a really long name. Sorry.
I think she was the VP.
Total moron.
Yeah.
And he got to sit there and just watch her cook in broad daylight.
Yep.
And I don't mean that in a good way.
No, the only person cooking was Tim. Tim Pool was cooked her ass.
Cooking her like a fucking Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah, it's great.
And I'm like, there's no way Jack didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh, interesting. So you think all right, I like that.
He sat back and just let her dry out in the sun, man. I mean, he was just like, yeah, man, she got it.
Oh, I mean, that's what really put Tim Pool, who's a friend of mine now. That's what put him on the map for me was that moment. It was so fucking great. But see, the thing is, like, I like your hypothesis, but then a year later we're in lockdowns, and he's letting his fucking platform just. Me personally, I suffered a lot. I was suspended countless times.
You were suspended?
Oh, all the time
For saying like COVID stuff?
Yeah, talking about like the origin story, talking about the lab.
It came from China.
Saying all the right shit, you know? They're like, unless you're willing to acknowledge that it came from a wet market, then we're going to suspend you. It's like, well, it didn't. So
you should have done a live stream video eating a bird, saying this is where.
Right.
I'm gonna get it right now.
Yeah, well, and then I mean, I also got triple striked on YouTube, and I only got brought back on because I successfully appealed the last one, and then I literally deleted my entire portfolio, which I don't think actually helps, but at the time I didn't know that. And then I waited 90 days or 6 months to have the other 2 strikes to fall off, you know? That's the only reason I have Liberty locked down today.
Whoa. What was the third strike for?
Oh, God, I can't remember. All of them were COVID stuff.
That's wild, man.
I mean, the name of my show is Liberty Lockdown. Like, obviously, I'm talking about the lockdowns.
Right.
I got to talk about the COVID origin. And I was right about it, so fuck all you. I deserve reparations.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? Like, looking back on that era, the people who were cast aside the most were the most right.
Yeah. I mean, basically, if you weren't being censored or suspended or whatever in 2020, 2021, you weren't even close to being right about shit. Like, not even close. You had to have your tinfoil on if you were going to figure out anything during that period, because it was a mass global psychological operation ran against the world. So if you think you're going to get the fucking truth from Fox News or Ben Shapiro for that matter, but I repeat myself, you're not going to get the fucking truth. Sorry. It's just the reality.
No, you're
Which,
not.
by the way, 60% of Daily Wire got laid off. And look, I never want to celebrate on the graves of the working man, but if you were working for the Daily Wire, learn to code. You know?
Yeah. That's cold. Yeah, I mean, there was some guy who did like a very analytical breakdown of the Daily Wire and what it means on Twitter and what it means about how to build a media brand today versus like building around a personality. And you just see I think he cooked. I think he's 100% right. It's like when you at the top have a personality adhere really strictly to something, even when faced with facts that maybe would not support that claim, and you dig in over and over again, eventually the average person out there who's even just listening passively is going to be like, you're not watching the same movie I am, so I'm not going to watch your TV show. You know, like, it's kind of common sense.
Well, and that's exactly why. You know, and just to clarify, I think that ideology, that rigidity that Ben Shapiro suffers from is Zionism. Because
I agree.
So if you have that as your core, which so much of corporate news, I mean, obviously Barry Weiss, CBS, like that's same rigid ideology. I think that's what creates this phenomenon, is that you lose the common man, because as long as we do have options, as long as we do have your show or my show or a trillion other shows, you're going to get more truth than you're going to get from these ideologues. Therefore, why would you ever go back to the ideologues? So what do? Their only response, like it's white blood cells being produced, is censorship, which is what they push for constantly. Even though Ben Shapiro made his name by talking about free speech and open dialogue and debating, blue-haired girls.
Not like that, though.
What's that?
Not like that. He was like this, but not like that.
Well,
when it
right.
got to this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's been 3 years almost since the war on Gaza began. I haven't seen Ben Shapiro debate a single legitimate person about our support for Israel during that war. This is the guy who's like free speech, debate, facts over your feelings, all that bullshit, right? Dave Smith's been calling him out nonstop. I'd do it. Nobody. He hasn't debated. Like,
he just insults people.
Yeah. And I mean, Dave Smith I think he's got a larger audience, or at least it's comparable at this point.
He's got a way larger audience.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't just continue to dismiss all of your challengers as being so much bigger than them. I know Tucker Carlson's fucking 100 times bigger than Shapiro at this point. Tucker would do it too. Ben can't do it because I think you can't win that fucking debate.
I agree.
I think that the truth is on the side of the Dave Smiths of this world at this point, and that's why Dave has just made a career out of crushing these people, because it's like he's got the truth on his side.
He's also, and like, God, even when he doesn't, he's an unbelievable debater.
No,
like he's so fucking good with words. There have been some points, I can't think of an example, of course, right now. I hate when I do that. But like, there have been some points before where I'm listening to him in a debate and I actually, on evidence, disagree with a point. But before I can even like formulate it in my head what I would be saying, he's like 6 lines past it and dropping like 6 bars on the other dude's head. I'm like, fuck. Damn it.
Well, Dave's a good friend of mine, and I thank God we ideologically align, because I don't want to debate him either. But I don't think it'll ever be necessity, or there'll never be a necessity, because we agree on so much anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, when you talk about the rigidity towards, in this case with Ben Shapiro, like being really pro-Israel or something, there's something about it where when you have so many problems at home and your money is going to fucking Ukraine and then it's going to Israel, it doesn't matter. When it's going to all these other places and people in Maui have their whole fucking town burned down and they get $700 and a fuck you, thank you.
Or I just can't afford a house.
Right.
How about that? Is that not enough of a reason?
That's plenty of it. I mean, you and I can make a list of 1,000 things.
Right.
There's something, you have to have some self-awareness if you actually are someone who cares about this country, which Ben Shapiro claims to care about this country, to step back and say, you know what? Even if I feel strongly about something over there, the point people are making to be angry about that here, they're 100% right, because of these problems do exist. But no, he comes out and he says, if you can't afford to live in the town that you grew up in, move away.
Yeah. You don't have a right to live where you were born.
It's insane.
It's like, all right, look, honestly, if it was like some sound money meritocratic system and you just couldn't produce because you're, I don't know why, but you couldn't afford to live there because you're just not willing to put in the effort to buy a house or whatever. It's like, all right, or maybe there's a reasonable argument. That's not what we live in. Mm-mm. We live in a fucking oligarchy with a printing press spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour. And you're going to just tell these people who, and by the way, with a democratic regime, which opened the borders as wide as possible and allows for as much demand to flood the system, like none of this is fucking organic. You should have a somewhat, it shouldn't be static, but it should be a somewhat reasonable population level that does not explode overnight, which is exactly what happened, particularly in San Diego. I can speak of this very well. And then you also shouldn't be debasing the currency. They were doing both. I mean, these people are so behind the 8 ball, it's unbelievable. So it just shows a level of detachment that Shapiro suffers from. And I think that amongst many other issues is why he's hemorrhaging audience, and deservedly so.
Yeah, and probably we got off this earlier, but it's a good time to bring it up. Of all the things to kind of surface after the fact with Charlie Kirk and where his head was at, the one that was most notable to me personally was the conversation with Dave Smith, which went largely under the radar. Dave did an interview with somebody and talked about this like a few weeks later, and not a lot of people talked about it. But what he was saying is,
I think it might have been me.
It might have been you. Yeah. Because I saw like a clip on Twitter of him explaining it. So it might have been you. But he was like, subscribe to Liberty Lockdown Pod on YouTube. We'll have it right down there.
Liberty Lockdown.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Yeah,
check it out.
Go check it out. But, he was saying that before he did that debate with Josh Hammer in July, I guess it was like a Turning Point event or something, he got to spend time with Charlie Kirk, which is something he hadn't really had a chance to do. And so I think he said for like 15 minutes, they were talking about a lot of books and different people across all different subject matter. And he very quickly ascertained like, wow, like Charlie Kirk is a really well-read guy. And so he says like, all right, you're smart. what are you doing here, man? Like, why are you supporting this so hardcore? I know you're not dumb. And Charlie said to him, like, almost like matter-of-factly and nonchalantly, he's like, listen, man, my Christianity is the most important thing. My faith is the most important thing to me. And the fact of the matter is the Israelis do a great job protecting the Christian holy sites. And if it were like a caliphate or something, it probably wouldn't be protected. Now, obviously, some of that claim has not aged very well in certain areas, but with respect to things like in Israel, as far as I have heard, like they actually do protect that stuff. It's not like ripped down like the history of where Jesus was and all that stuff. But
it should be noted that it also wasn't torn down pre-1948 when.
And that's another point there. But he may be like thinking like, yo, what if like, I don't know, what if Iraq came in or something?
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah. But either way, he never once in that conversation with Dave was defending them on the semantics of the actual government there and the actions taken or the things that they're doing or being in any support of that. He was strictly saying that the whole reason he got behind this, which I can understand at the outset, I guess, why he did, was just his personal faith. Okay, fine. But like he clearly was coming around because now his faith of like, hey, that also means we got to protect innocent people, and they're not exactly being protected by them. Maybe that should outweigh my pieces of history, which are very, very important, to be clear.
Yep.
But like maybe that's where he was getting.
Well, that's my whole beef with Charlie. You know, I met him a couple times. We weren't friends or anything, but that was the thing that I would publicly attack him for periodically, was that I know that you're a smart enough guy to see that this is wrong. And I know that you're a principled and moral enough guy to know that this is morally wrong. So what's your excuse, really? And I didn't understand it as well as I do now because of studying his assassination, tragically. But I now understand it quite a bit better, is that he was funded. He was funded to maintain this talking point. And he knew that in interacting with Dave Smith, that ain't going to fucking fly. You can't tell Dave, I'm doing this because the money runs out if I don't.
Right.
So he made the calculating decision to essentially not tell the truth about some things that he believed in, because he wanted to keep TPUSA afloat and he wanted to grow it and he wanted to be, a player. And everybody makes that calculus on their own.
And maybe he was finally turning on it.
Well, and I think he was. And I think, as I said to open this up, I think that's the reason that's the top motive that we ought to be considering. Because especially when you recognize like the way the Zionist donors function, it's not a fucking game, dude. Like this is a nation, I'm saying Zionist, but like Israel in particular is responsible for more political assassinations than anybody else on the planet by quite a bit. So I can't.
Yeah, you can't.
I can't connect those two dots and be like, all right, we got a nation that assassinates people willy-nilly, and then we've got a guy in America who gets assassinated, and he's taking donations from these people that expect him to maintain these talking points, and then he stops doing that, and then you're like, A, B, C. Don't you say D? Don't you fucking say D?
Well, they did name a street after him, like right afterwards.
Yeah, well,
and
they also they painted murals within hours.
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense, huh?
I mean, they do that a lot now for celebrity deaths.
It was less than a day. You see how fucking big that mural was?
It was a big mural. It was a big mural.
They didn't have fucking murals of Kobe up that fast.
I was just gonna say they did have murals of Kobe up that fast.
No, they did not.
Yeah, they did.
No, not
they
that
were.
fast.
They were that night. They were painting them. Come on.
All right. Well, then now I have to open up the conspiracy theories about Kobe.
Oh my god. Ugh. But you were cooking earlier on the central banking currency, on central banking and its relation to currency, and this is something that like probably since like the beginning of the podcast we haven't covered a ton, but you're a great guy to talk more about this with, because you were using the term fiat, which a lot of people are familiar with, referring to the types of currency we have. But my friend Matt Kemenach, like all the way back in episode 43, really like educated people on the history of like the gold standard in this country and how that was how things were ripped down. Like you can talk about, of course, the Fed being started at all, but with the Great Depression, it's a prime example of the same things you were talking about today, where shit was so bad, politicians come in and politicians have to win elections on a Tuesday in November 4 years later, so they can't have shit bad on their watch. Right. So they do a bunch of things and say the next guys will deal with it. And so FDR walks into admittedly the shittiest situation of all time, and he creates all these systems to try to jumpstart the economy and fix it. But in doing that, sets precedents that eventually, as far as I know, maybe you know better, lead to what was the death of the gold standard officially under Nixon in 73. Like 71, 73?
I think it was 73.
Yeah, one of them.
But yeah, that was when they closed the gold window. But look, FDR's programs are basically the entire reason that we're insolvent as a country today. I mean, it's not entirely, that's unfair because the military-industrial complex is responsible for a huge amount of that. In fact, our relationship to Israel is responsible for about 10 trillion of our national debt. So when
10 trillion?
Yeah. You can pull this up. There's a study that was done after this requires you to agree with my hypothesis with plenty of evidence that the global war on terror was fought largely to the benefit of Israel. Okay. So if you don't go down that path, then obviously 10 trillion's ridiculous. I personally believe that there's a tremendous amount of evidence to prove out that we didn't go attack multiple countries that had nothing to do with 9/11 in the immediate aftermath of 9/11 because we were not doing that for Israel purposes. Sorry.
I think you have a case there.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Yeah.
You can read a whole lot of books about it, and they would lay it out much more eloquently. Scott Horton, another good friend of mine. He's the best on this.
I love watching that guy cook. It's so fun.
He's amazing. But yeah, enough already. Time to end the war on terror. He walks you through the entire history of it. It's unbelievably profound. So, anyways, yeah, 10 trillion of our national debt. This is why I get so mad. I gotta get this off my chest. I did a couple episodes ago. I kind of launched a broadside attack against Tim Pool, who, as I say over and over, is my friend. But this is my frustration with Tim: is that like, if you acknowledge, and I'm taking a way major
this is great
sideways street, but if you acknowledge that when Randy Fine is sitting in front of you and he says that, sure, we can have a debate over whether or not we should be giving $3.5 billion a year to Israel, but anti-Semitism, blah 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 blah, that I have a right to be upset with Tim for not actually bringing up the true expenditures that relationship entails. The fact that the war in Iran is clearly, explicitly to the benefit and the defense of Israel.
Admitted by the U.S. government in multiple different outlets.
Yeah, including fucking Marco Rubio. Trump said it himself.
Mike Johnson.
Yeah, down the line. They all said it.
They put it in the official Epic Fury manual thing.
Yeah, it's like, hello. Mm-hmm. So do I need to then force your hand, Tim, to say to Randy, well, what about the $50 billion that we've spent on the Iran war so far? Some people say it's 25. Some people say it's 50 billion. But if you're going to say, oh, we've only spent 3.5 billion. Okay, well then let's also add on to that the 30 billion that we've spent, that we've added to the 3.5 billion over the past 2.5 years that they've been at war with Gaza. That's not 3.5 billion a year.
Right.
That's over 10 billion a year. So anyways, it's just, and then you add in global war on terror. I mean, we're talking about a huge burden, an extraordinary burden that you would never, ever justify to defend fucking Christian holy sites. Sorry, Charlie. It's nonsense. It's total nonsense. And if you want to pretend as if you care about, the Bible or God or anything like that, how could you possibly justify making it impossible for young people in your country to start household formation, to get married, to have kids? You're failing on that regard. How could you fail to speak up as you see tens of thousands of fucking children blown up? Really? Mm-hmm. Does your Bible say that's okay, Charlie? No, it doesn't. So this is why I get so frustrated with all these guys, and I oftentimes burn bridges, and but it's like, it comes from a good place. Like I know Tim. I think he's a good guy. I just want him to be honest about this issue, fully honest about it.
Right.
Because I saw in Charlie a similar dynamic. And maybe that's the reason Tim doesn't want to go down that path, because maybe he suspects the same thing. I don't know.
All right, real quick, let's just take a break. I got to pee, and we'll let the construction out there finish.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Then we'll roll. All right, we're back. So Deef actually just pulled up a couple tweets referencing what you were saying, Clint. Grok was asked about Trump's tweet, I guess, in 2019 regarding the $8 trillion fighting and policing the Middle East, and confirmed by saying, yes, Trump's October 9th, 2019 tweet referenced $8 trillion in Middle East costs. Israel's 2025 population is estimated at 9.5 million, so $8 trillion equates to 842,000 per citizen. That's a nice house. Okay, next. And then...
Yeah, there goes your starter home, by the way.
That's right. Updating again on Grok, coming from Grok right here. Updating totals based on latest data. Direct U.S. aid to Israel from 46 before they were even founded to 2025 is $175 billion nominal. $340 billion inflation adjusted, plus $23 billion since October 2023, according to Brown University. Post 9/11 war costs are approximately $8 trillion for the United States, which, if you did combine those two, Grok saying, would equal 8.363 trillion. And I think where your case is good, if you want to look at all of them under a lens, I would say it's probably a mix of like some neocons and some corruption in America too. But like, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu's been begging for war with Iran since he could fucking talk.
Yeah.
On record. This is a guy who was going to our Congress in 2002.
Since before you were alive, dude.
Yeah, literally.
In the 80s.
Going in there and saying, if you must attack Iraq and you must attack Iran.
Yep.
You know, like...
Yep. And by the way, every time you get pushback on this, like Shapiro's of the world will talk about how, no, after 9/11, they didn't want us to attack Iraq. It's very important that people, that they always leave out the second part, that because they wanted us to go after Iran. That's what they actually wanted. And then the only reason that they got back on board was because we said, we're going to take Iraq and then we'll go for Iran. That's the whole fucking reason that they were okay with it. So just to wrap up the point that I was making about, as I say, my friend, Tim Pool, like the guy a lot. We played tons of poker. Good dude. But look at that fucking chart. Look what I'm talking about. We're talking about an astronomical amount of money, astronomical human sacrifice. We didn't talk about the tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers that died in the war on terror, or the thousands and thousands, I think over 10,000 that took their own lives.
Yes. Still are.
Yeah, exactly. Every day. And I grew up in fucking San Diego, dude. I grew up, like I spent, the last decade that I was in San Diego in Carlsbad, just south of Pentagon, why can't I remember the name of it? It's been too long since I've been back. Anyways, where all the Marines are at, right? I played beach volleyball with these guys. I saw the psychological struggles that they went with, the alcoholism that came with it, and these were like good people. I could tell these were good guys. They went over there for all the right reasons, and they came back realizing that they didn't fight for those reasons at all.
Yes.
And it breaks them spiritually. So you add on to that, all of those experiential reasons, but then you add into my economics background, and you start to really understand the full portrait of why I'm so anti-war, why I'm so anti our relationship to Israel. Not because I have some fucking deep-seated hatred towards Jewish people. It's like absurd, because our relationship to this nation state, if they fucking worshipped, I don't know, Zeus, I would oppose it. Yeah. Like, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy that a guy like Tim, who I like so much, can look at the aid to Ukraine and say $175 billion to Ukraine is insane and we shouldn't be doing that. We're risking World War III against Russia. And he and I can sit shoulder to shoulder, just screaming it from the rooftops. But then when it comes to this, I stand alone.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to make a distinction.
That's my whole point,
We're talking
man.
about the same things. Now, do you ever, because you're a long time pure libertarian, and I think that some of the libertarian financial ideas are amazing in the sense that when, like, what they're rooted in, when we talk about central banks and stuff, which we'll talk more about as well. I do want to stay on that conversation at some point. But, like, when it comes to the foreign policy, I hate war. I think war should be a last resort in every way. But sometimes when I talk with the really hardcore, like, I don't know, radical libertarians, they'll be like, we should have zero relationships around the world and there should absolutely never be a war. And I start to think to myself, that feels like,
utopian.
Yes.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, look, I think it's a fair rejoinder. It's a fair retort that libertarians get oftentimes, that, we are pushing what seems to be, storybook endings that aren't based in reality. Look, I think I look at it as kind of a lighthouse in the distance. it's not to say that all wars are going to be avoided just because I'm a libertarian. It's to say that I think it's obviously preferable that we avoid wars except for those that are extraordinarily necessary. And that bar should be very high. And I think everyone ought to agree with that.
Yes.
That before you start taking life in mass, the bar needs to be fucking high.
I agree with that.
And it hasn't been.
Yes.
And that's the problem. So instead of worrying about, the zany libertarians who like oftentimes, some of them are true pacifists. A friend of mine, Bob Murphy, he's an actual pacifist. I'm not. I am a founding father level libertarian.
Yes.
I think revolution is our birthright. I think it's the reason we exist, So as much as I love Bob Murphy and I love his Christian, pacifism, I'm like, nah, man, there's a time to grab the muskets.
There's a time. Yeah. I like that answer because there's a reality to the world, just like you're saying, where it's not a utopia. Unfortunately, that said, all right, I'm making up numbers off the top of my head. $1 trillion to NATO over X number of years. Maybe
that might be right.
Whatever it is, maybe we're not getting the return on that investment we should. Maybe that could be allocated in other places. I'm a huge proponent of making sure that our military is in the best position if that high bar were crossed so that we could go take care of business and spread some goddamn freedom. What I don't like is when they're asking for $200 billion in the first, 5 days of the fucking Iran war that we didn't need to start. And now they have to replenish all this stuff that they used unnecessarily, which is now just increasing. It takes our defense budget way above where it should be at a deterrence level versus just an active let's fuck around and play bombs level.
Well, and it's so much worse than that, dude. I mean, they're pushing a $1.5 trillion annual spending budget for the military.
Yeah.
That's more than almost like every other military on Earth combined. Like seriously, you could look this up. It's fucking astronomical.
Can we look that up? I never looked that up before. That's crazy.
1.5 trillion is so much more than we need to be spending.
Yeah, what did the top 10 militaries around the world spend per year? Let's start there. In dollars, I guess. So it might be more than like the other 9 combined.
I think it is. It used to. I mean, this is before we were spending $1 trillion. It was already that.
Here we go. Okay. So the U.S.
Look at that. It's like fucking every other country combined.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, I'm going off the 1.5.
And you're still, even though the number they have right here is closer to like 1 trillion.
Right.
You're still pretty close to right. Second place, China at 336. Third place, Russia at 190. Germany at 114. India at 92. UK at 89. Ukraine at 84. Saudi Arabia at 83. France at 68. Japan at 62. That's the top 10. I think it's more than the other 9 combined.
Well, if you go to the 1.5, which is what Trump is asking for now,
it's definitely more.
It's miles ahead of the next closest 9.
Yeah, you're right.
So when I hear someone like you say,
$1 trillion over China.
yeah, bro. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So when I hear people like you say, I want to make sure that we have a military that's prepared, I just want to really emphasize, if you can't be fucking prepared with $960 billion, you're never going to be prepared, all right?
I agree.
So you don't need 1.5. Miss me with that nonsense.
Yes.
It's insane.
Well, because also we dropped we tested fucking 40,000 bombs on Yemen that no one ever found out about that went to, 200 billion of that. Oh, poof, gone in the wind.
Well, that was the other genocide we were funding through the Saudis. I mean, people don't even
no one
know
talks about that.
No, what happened to the Yemenis was atrocious.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how you know the libertarians are for real, because we're the only people that talked about Yemen. So this is why I get very frustrated, and this is why I push back against him, is because he started talking about Israel derangement syndrome. And it's like, bro, and he always clarifies, I'm not talking about you, Clint. And I'm like, all right, yeah, but take on the argument then.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is not based in derangement. These are facts. So if you want to argue that you come to a different conclusion after dealing with these facts that I'm presenting to you, fine, we can have that discussion. But please don't dismiss the people that are saying, I don't like seeing, even if it's just like a basic human emotion level, I just don't like spending years scrolling through TikTok and seeing toddlers pulled out of rubble.
Right.
That's a fine fucking reason to oppose war too.
Do you think
that's okay?
Do you think part of it is also I think Tim Pool was one of the guys who went and met with Netanyahu or something. Do you think, because you and I have never been in those rooms, and we're not going to be, nor do we want to. But do you think there's also some sort of, I can't think of a better word to say it. It's kind of dystopian, but it might be true. Like some sort of psychosis that happens when, you know, you meet a guy like that who's a lifelong talented politician. You're in a back room fucking just having a beer with him or whatever, and he seems like a normal person, and there's some sort of disconnect where a guy like Tim Pool's like, yeah, no, he's not doing a genocide.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And I can give my own story on this. You know, I met Vivek Ramaswamy, and I spent a lot of time with the guy. And fucking charismatic out the wazoo. Like just unbelievably impressive human being. I still like him. I still think I think he's a very interesting political figure. But it biased me in a way that was like bad. Like it was bad to get that level of personal relationship. So I recognize, because I went on his campaign trail, because I was doing Timcast IRL out in, I don't know, South Dakota or some primary state. And I followed him around and hung out with him for a couple of days. And I debated him at the Libertarian National Convention. That was a very strange moment. You can drop in one of my lines from that if you want. But it was awesome. I got my first standing ovation in my life. That was very fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. But anyways, the point that I'm making is that, especially at a high-level politician, is going to be charismatic. Yeah. So if you meet with them and you build a relationship, it's going to be very hard to stay impartial. That being said, I can't imagine sitting across the table from Netanyahu and being like, no, you're right. I get it now. I was wrong about all this. You know? Like, I can see Trump fucking, you know, star dazzling me or something, but I can't see Netanyahu doing that.
Yeah, I'd have to I have to try to figure out if that is some root cause. But the other thing is the thing we're talking about, where it's just a topic some people for some reason are still like afraid to say something bad about.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, dude, even if you solved for whatever it is, call 50% of what you see AI, there's still another 50% out there, and it's what you're fucking looking at, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and when I even have like some boomers now hitting me up asking me about this, that's when you know.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll believe anything, to be clear.
We've broken containment.
But
right?
yeah, it's breaking some containment where my mom's like, what the fuck is going on here? Because she's a basic human.
Same thing with my mom.
Yeah.
We've been having these conversations recently, and I think I'm red pilling her too fast. She's a big fan of the show. So
shout out Clint's mom.
Yeah. Dina, hi mom. But yeah, it's I think more and more, you know, like I said earlier, like the facts are on our side here. Like our relationship to Israel is a detriment to our country. And that doesn't mean that we need to be their enemies and immediately go invade them or something crazy, but like we need to recognize that our national interests, our self-interest as a human population needs to be paramount.
That's
and
right.
if you can't get if there's any single politician in America who won't say that and mean it and follow it up with action, they should be charged with treason. That's how fucking seriously I take this. You are violating your oath to the Constitution, your duty to the American people, your duty to your constituency. Randy Fine, I'm talking to you, you fat fuck.
He sucks.
He sucks. And almost all of them suck, though, Julian. Almost all of them suck. So this is my point.
Oh, I agree. Listen.
We gotta get serious
about preaching
this.
to the choir.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. But
I just get a little bit hyped.
No, I know, man. It's like there's just something about whether it be like Brian Mast wearing a fucking IDF uniform on the floor of the U.S. Congress. Like, come on, man.
I don't play any of that shit.
It's not. I don't care who it is. If it were a Great Britain uniform, I'd be really upset about it. It doesn't matter, you know? And this is where I've had some mind-numbing arguments, frankly, with people on both sides of the equation, whether it be someone who's really anti-Israel or really pro-Israel, to where they'll try to talk with me and they want me to just hone in on one thing. So I'll give you an example here. Someone who's like a really hardcore pro-Israel person will be like, well, because you're looking over at Israel over here, and what about China? What about Iran and all this? I'm like, yeah, no, fuck them too. Listen, I've been pounding the table about China forever. Fuck them too. It's fuck everyone. Anyone who's not in the interest of my fucking place, fuck them.
Exactly.
And they look at me like I have 10 heads. Then I talk to someone who's like really anti-Israel and they want to focus everything on Israel. I'm like, yeah, no, China's a problem. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? That's Fed slop. I'm like, oh, all right, dude.
Well, and
it can be a lot of things at the same time. Believe it or not.
And it is. I mean, but that's my whole point is that, you know, I was the whole reason I like first got put on the map, other than railing against the lockdowns, was my rants that I would do on Timcast IRL about the Ukraine war. So like, this is why Tim can't do the derangement shit with me, because it's like, I'm not deranged, because I fucking did the exact same.
Consistent.
Yeah, I did the exact same rants against our relationship to Ukraine when it came to what amounts to a proxy war, World War III, between the two largest nuclear powers in human history.
Which is still happening, by the way.
It's still fucking happening, exactly. Like, I don't talk about it all that much because it's like, it seems as if we have at least stopped funding and arming them to the tune of what we had been. But the fact that it hasn't ended is so dangerous.
And there's all these people, and it's the people that are used as pawns on both sides of the equation. It's all these people dying in the millions. We looked at this with Kat Schultz. That was a couple months ago. It was the casualties were at like an estimated 1.8, 1.9 million.
Right. Yeah. Well, and
population control. How about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can go down a real tinfoil hat avenue on that. I'm not confident on it, so I won't. But
don't worry, BlackRock's rebuilding it, so it'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But I mean, this is why I'm so anti-war. Is like these are just catastrophes on scales that are really hard to fathom. And I think, unfortunately, once you get to numbers that high, you must detach emotionally, because otherwise it'll break you. Like, I think people can just barely hang on with the Gaza stuff, and that's, the numbers are obviously very hazy, but it's at least 70 or 80,000. Some people say it's astronomically higher. I'm not going to pretend to know, but
even if it's there, it's horrible.
But just the key thing to tie these two together, I oppose both, because both are me being robbed to fund a military in the death of innocents on a scale that is unspeakably evil. And it's just like, why can't we unify around that?
I agree.
Why can't we just say that?
I agree.
So,
Steve, can we actually Google the latest funding for Ukraine from the United States? That's a great question, yes, because we don't even talk about this right now.
Yeah, I know we've sent them $175 billion. I don't know what we're doing today, though.
Yeah, when the last one was, or how much. They probably shoved it in some fucking bill this big.
Yeah, there could be recent spending. I'm not sure.
May 2026, the U.S. has authorized $800 million in military aid for Ukraine under the fiscal 2026 National Defense Authorization Act. So that's just this year.
That's paltry compared to what we were spending.
Right. But it's still $800 million. You're like, whatever, ashtray money. Intended for the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative over 26 and 27. This includes $400 million in funding intended for new weapons from U.S. companies. Got to take care of those donors. Well, very, very important.
And this is what the neocons will use as a defense of this nonsense.
Yeah.
Is they go, we're not giving Israel money. We're giving money to defense contractors to then hand the weapons to them for free. It's like, bitch, don't play with me. You're giving them fucking...
We're creating jobs.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what we're doing.
It's broken glass fallacy writ large. It's insane.
We're coming up, ironically, in the middle of all this, obviously, on the 250th anniversary of the greatest experiment in human history right here. I take it, based on what you said earlier, you're a guy who studies the revolution quite a bit.
Not as much as my friend Josie, but I know a decent amount.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with it. Always have been. I think it's the coolest thing ever, but it just blows my mind. Like, obviously, like everyone else, they were imperfect and there's some mistakes. There always are. But like the prescience that those guys had from start to finish, from just making it happen to then setting it up afterwards. How unbelievable is that?
And just to have this confluence of like, the way I view it was like, these were like polymaths. I mean, you got some of the most impressive and courageous human beings to come together all at the same time. It's just like, I mean, this is what brings you down kind of a spiritual thought process as to how this country even came to be. Is this like, how could you have that confluence of that brilliance and that courage coming together and throwing off the shackles of the largest empire in human history at the time? How is that even possible? The odds were so stacked against them, and they did.
They did it.
It's amazing.
It's incredible, and like, it makes you think though when we look at some of the dystopian things that are being attempted to be set up, not just here but around the world right now. And the difference back then is people had to wake up and they had to survive that day. They had to go make their own food.
Yeah, dude.
Literally produce it out in their yard, tend to their livestock. You couldn't just go from one place to the other place in 2 minutes. It might take 2 fucking days. So all the simplest things.
They didn't even have fridges.
They didn't even have fridges.
Yeah.
And so people were aware of where everything came from because they had to create it. And now in our society, starting with myself, all of us, we don't have that.
Well,
so when we're looking
guilty of that.
Right, so when we're looking at revolution, it's like the revolution is televised because we're sitting there watching it in a way. You know, sometimes I wonder if that's, you kind of said something like this earlier, but that's how it's set up so that people will be put in such a position that they don't have not the impetus, but they don't have the inner drive and wherewithal to pull it off.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, that's kind of the conclusion I came to after the lockdown era. I mean, if there was ever a time in my life that a revolution was justified, sorry, that was it. Yeah. Like you shut down all of the mid and low tier businesses for months. You shut down churches in the South, and there wasn't a revolution. Like, think about how crazy that is. So now, granted, people were propagandized, people were buying into the narratives, and people eventually woke up from those narratives. And I hope that means that it'll be harder to do it the next go around. But I think that adds to the gravity of the argument that people are already cowed, that we are already incapable of recognizing an existential threat to our liberty and being willing to do what our founders would have demanded of us, pleaded of us.
Yeah. There's moments that stand out for everyone from that era, I'm sure. One of them for me is like probably about 4 weeks in. I think I had moved back a week before maybe. I was talking with my dad one night because I was living in their house at that time. And he just said he got back from the food store. And he's like, people have totally adapted. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, all these precautions, all these things, wearing gloves, wearing masks, going straight to your car, not talking to people, going home, not even thinking about going to an office or anything that's not for basic survival. They've just done it. Like, we're all a part of it. Like, I walked out there and I realized I was already used to it. It took a few weeks. He's like, that's crazy.
Not for me. But I agree. I mean, he's right that was, it seemed to be kind of a universal adaptation. I didn't adapt. I was.
You're practicing sniper training up on a roof.
Dude, I bought my first gun the week of lockdowns. I'm not even fucking kidding, dude. I bought an AR in California because I was like, oh shit. I also bought my first, I'll just stop there. I just was like, I was about to lay out my, my personal financial situation in a way that is not intelligent to put on the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, precious metals. Let's see what we can do here, And those were great investments, by the way, because I bought right at the bottom. But my point is, I did not adapt. And I think there was 20% of the population, give or take, that didn't adapt. And those are the people that, like, I look at it as kindred spirits. It's like, you should not adapt to that. And I believe that you should not adapt to being robbed to fund the death of innocents worldwide. Like, you shouldn't adapt to that. Yeah. Even if it's the historical norm, even if it's everything you've ever known, because you were born in 2001 and we've been at war ever since.
Yep.
You should still recognize that there is a moral imperative to look around you and say, this is not right. Even if you were born into it, you should still eventually realize that. And that's what I try and encourage people down the path on. I mean, some of the most passionate anti-war people you meet are former Marines that are now libertarians. Like, these guys saw it firsthand. They went in there as gung-ho as any fucking red-blooded patriot you'll ever meet in your life. And they all recognize it for what it is at this point. So not all, but a growing number. And so if you don't take me seriously, talk to those guys.
I've watched a lot of guys. I'm thinking of a lot of tier 1 guys in particular over the past 4 or 5 years specifically, who, I don't want to speak for them because I'm not in their heads, but who maybe, I'm sure, had these thoughts in the back of their head already before that time period of like, what were we doing there this year at that time or whatever? But maybe they hadn't gotten all the way there because that was their life. That was their job. They were put on the earth to do, and they want to believe that was for all the right things. And then Afghanistan happened. And I watched slowly in real time guys at least consciously start to peel it back, almost like the dude in the movie rewatching everything in his head and realizing it was all the opposite of what he thought.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing for me to see because these guys make the ultimate sacrifice. They volunteer to go do this and put their lives down. Most of them, literally all of them, have lost friends over there doing this. And it's not their fault at all. But the idea that then years later, you have to realize that, I hate saying it like this, but some of that might have been in vain. In your mind, I can't, but for them to think that, I can't even imagine having to have that thought.
But that's why so many of them are so angry. That's why so many of them suffer with psychological issues and alcoholism and drug use. But a lot of them, demonstrating the courage that put them in that position to begin with, a willingness to fight and sacrifice for their nation. They demonstrate that courage to this day. Like Joe Kent is who I think of. Yeah. A guy who's willing to end his political career to speak out against Donald Trump. And like, those are the guys that I look up to, that I go like, man, you still have the brass, like you put down the rifle, but you didn't lose any ounce of that courage. Like you're still fighting. And those are the guys we need.
His takes in real time since he left.
He's been hitting out of the park.
Oh, dude, it's been like his hit rate is like 97% or something.
Yeah. But people still call him a fraud and a liar and
crazy
con man. And it's like, dude, or a traitor. It's like, yeah, because he's trying not to let our country be destroyed in another unnecessary war in the Middle East, which, by the way, Donald Trump fucking campaigned on. Yeah. Which, by the way, I voted for Trump because of that. That and because I thought that the Kamala Harris would lead us to World War III with Russia. But, you get World War III one way or the other, right?
You're going to get it in one part of the world.
It's Iran or it's Russia. Take your pick.
It's crazy. I'm also so impressed with how Joe has so stoically handled the blowback against him. Yeah. And he said it right when he came out. He was like nonchalant about it in like a all shucks kind of way, where he's like, listen, I know how it works. I'm sure the president's going to come out and have to say some things. That's just the game. But then he comes out and he does it.
Right.
And there's a difference between saying that before it happens and then the guy walks on a tarmac and says he got married real quick.
Yeah.
And to handle that,
I wouldn't have handled it
that well. I wouldn't have handled that well.
No, I would have been like,
because he didn't get married quick, by the way. Not that that should even matter, but like, holy shit.
Well, and by the way, Joe Kent's wife died in one of these unnecessary wars in the Middle East. So if anyone should shut the fuck up, it's Donald Trump, who couldn't get us out of those wars, even though he tried to. So kudos to him for that. But they lied to him about troop counts in Syria, and that's where his wife died, by the way. Yeah. So I think Joe Kent has every reason to be furious with Donald Trump, and he's demonstrated a level of, calm and resolve and professionalism throughout all of this that is, it's just powerful.
Yeah. And I know people get like, and I fully understand why they get real tight about, well, the guy's coming from counterintelligence. Is this some sort of sniper or whatever? Dude, he was a Green Beret for like 20 years. Okay. Yep. Then he did a few years with fucking Ground Branch, which is a totally separate thing than like a case officer, true blue kind of CIA person. And as you said, he's lost his own blood to these wars and stuff. And what he's saying is so like, he puts it in a way the everyman can understand. Like when I hear him explain something pretty complicated the first time, I'm like, yeah, we can all. That's 1 + 2 + 2. That's 5. Wow.
I feel like he distills down Scott Horton's work in a way that's much more palatable to the normies. Because Scott will he'll run through.
Listen, man, listen.
That's a good impersonation. But Scott, you'll ask him a question. I won't even ask him a question about geopolitics. And then I'm just trying to hang up my phone and I'll look at the timer. It's an hour and a half later. And I literally asked him about, I don't know, some tax policy thing. And now we're in 1973 in Iran. And I'm like, I don't know. So anyways, Joe Kent is much more concise. Is the nice way to put it. Hi, Scott.
I've literally had someone sitting in that seat. This has happened multiple times where they're making it someone cool and they're making a point on something. And I will just look over and see the ghost of Scott Horton in that seat going, oh, man, no, you got it all wrong, man. And I'm just I'm sorry. I'm living in another dimension.
And the truth is, Scott's right. The guy probably did have it wrong.
Yeah. He's been at it. Scott's been at it. For how many episodes has he done? Fucking 9,000 or something?
Yeah. He's OG.
Yeah.
And he was doing terrestrial radio before He started his show.
Terrestrial radio.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what it's called.
I don't know if I'd admit that out loud, but still, that's fucking unreal. He's going way back. Fucking. Yeah, and like that's where, listen, you can argue with some of the overall, like, if things get too utopian and whatever with the arguments, but the points of like the endless spending on things that objectively make our country worse, socioeconomically, culturally, all the way downstream. You can't argue with it at this point.
Well, and I think that's the point that I always try and hit on with the Republicans, because they don't buy into the bleeding heart shit. They're like, I don't give a fuck about the kids in Palestine. It's like, all right, I respect your honesty. How about, do you give a fuck about your kids? You know, I try to hit them with self-interest as opposed to going down the, moral route. If they're Christian leaning, I might hit them with the moral arguments. But if they're just like red, white, and blue, hoorah, and we're the superior ones, so like fuck all these people. Well, then you got to go down the path of, is this actually benefiting you?
Yeah.
Does it just make you feel tougher to have your government blowing up people all over the place? And I think that's the truth, is that like there's a huge swath of Republicans that just love the fact that we kick the shit out of people all over the world, and they just think that makes us superior, and therefore they get some sort of self-worth out of that. I think it's a very fucking weak existence, honestly.
I agree.
It doesn't make you tougher to have a government that fucks people up. Sorry, it doesn't. It may make you feel a little bit better about yourself, but trust me, it's temporary. You need to go to the gym instead.
Yeah, that's go right to the gym. That's a better place to get it out. That's what pisses me so much off about how Pete Hegseth talks about this stuff. It's like, dude, you're talking about death. You're talking about human lives and everything. You want to argue over your war? Okay, all right, fine. Don't sit here and give me fucking G.I. Joe bars because you think it sounded hard in the mirror.
Bro, he is scary psychopathic.
Yes.
In my opinion.
I agree.
When he talks, I'm like, he's like a B-action movie star, you think, or some shit? Like,
See.
There you go. I stand corrected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something, it's like.
But the real, and this is, I think, honestly, this is what radicalized Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson got super radicalized by all the religiosity tied into the warfare state. He was just like, not
That's what did it?
my name. I believe that. Because you can hear him talk about it all the time now. He is super disturbed that his religion is being used to justify mass death. He's
crazy.
Really, really, and I, same thing with Joe Kent. People go, Tucker's dad was CIA, you can't trust him. Like, I'm not telling you to trust him. I'm just telling you, I've listened to the guy for fucking years. His shift on these wars in particular seems very sincere to me, and his arguments are sound. I mean, he's basically laying it out like, don't use my Bible to justify killing kids. Yeah. No.
Or Pulp Fiction. Don't do that either.
Yeah, well, I forgot about that. Oh, man. He should have stayed at Fox News.
What's crazy is that, you hear whispers from behind the scenes of people who were like around him for a long time, who were, quote unquote, like keeping their mouths shut when he got nominated, and they couldn't believe he got nominated because they're like, this guy's a fucking nut job.
Yeah.
And to be clear, like Lloyd Austin was a fucking embarrassment before him. It's a different kind of embarrassment, though. One's wearing a fucking, face visor, 6 masks, and you never hear his voice, and the other's saying, all right, let's blow up a school.
Well, isn't that a perfect example of the dichotomy of the duopoly that we're offered?
Yeah.
You have this fucking Darth Vader psychopath that like wants us to live in dystopic hell forever with lockdowns and shit, and then you got, Die Hard with a boner. Like, he's such a weird dude.
When he used that, Die Hard with a boner.
Yeah, I don't even know where I go with that, but he's just such a strange human being. Yeah. But my point is, like, no. My answer to both of those offers is no.
That's right.
I don't want either of you having any.
How did we get there?
Yeah, dude. I wish I knew. I mean, I'll tell you, that dot right there is Thomas Massie.
You think so?
That's the heir apparent of Ron Paul, man, as far as I'm concerned. No disrespect to his actual son, Rand, but I think Thomas Massie carries the spirit of Ron Paul like no one I've seen.
Why does this is the thing I can't get around. Donald Trump is so, throughout his entire political career, is the most poll-obsessed person ever. Yep. Including using polls that make absolutely no sense and we know are bullshit.
100% of MAGA approves, yeah.
Yeah, why? Yeah. Why does he go so directly against the polls in going after someone like Thomas Massie, who was universally very liked, even across the aisle now. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie have, just like as a general kind of person level, like some pretty good approval ratings across the parties.
Yeah, well, and also, this is while Congress has the lowest approval rating in history,
right.
So like if you have any congressman with any approval at all, that's the anomaly.
That's right.
So yeah, Thomas Massie's extraordinarily popular. Obviously, he's hated by all of the people who are still sycophants for Trump and just do whatever he says, but I don't think it's a sincere hatred. They all recognize, what Massie's about. Like, he's a true constitutionalist. But the answer, and sorry, I'll get accused of Israel derangement syndrome, but that's the answer. I mean, if you look at the people who are financing the primary campaign against Thomas Massie, they're all Zionist donors, all of them.
Yeah, that's true.
And some of them are also Epstein connected, by the way.
The biggest ones. Yeah, Miriam, who else? Paul Singer.
Singer and Adelson are the only ones I remember the names of. There's a third guy. But like, it's basically those three Zionist billionaires that chunked up $25 million. I'm not talking about a general, bro. This is a primary. They're putting up $25 million to try and oust Thomas Massie. That, I don't know, you can maybe look this up, but that may be the most expensive primary race in American history. I mean, it's got to be up there. This
Inflation adjusted, let's see.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'd love to see the Frank Church primary race back in the day.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Right? But
inflation adjusted, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably the same vibes,
Yep.
A lot of strange money coming in there with them. Yeah, as of March 26th, the Texas Senate primary is the most expensive primary race in U.S. history. Who's doing that?
No, that's Senate, though. I'm talking House.
Yeah. House. Let's do House. What was that Senate race? Is that Ted Cruz?
Might have been.
AIPAC Ted?
Yeah.
All right. So George Latimer. Yeah.
There you go.
So, all right. Yeah, it's going to break it because George Latimer was, and that is $24.8 million. That was in the 2024 Democratic primaries. That's the Bowman one. And Bowman,
he was
money
also
that came in
AIPAC.
was AIPAC money and all that. Yeah, that was what, listen, Bowman's kind of a cringy guy. That was one place where he had a set of balls on him.
Yep. And I'm not a fan of Bowman, but that's, just be honest, like all of the squad members that have been ousted, it was AIPAC money that got rid of them. And I oppose those people because they're socialists and I'm not. But like, it's just the truth. Like you can believe and do almost anything including like child trafficking.
It's so dark. I laugh, but that's not funny, but it's just like hilarious how in your face it is.
But you can get away with basically anything as long as you support Israel. That's how our political system is structured. That's just the fucking truth. And you can call me whatever names you want. I've heard them all. I just think it's a factual based analysis that like that's how our system works. And when you see $25 million being put up to oust Thomas Massie, a A+ rating conservative congressional member, very high approval ratings, and the only thing that he's really getting pushed out for is because he doesn't support Israel.
You see that line? He was walking to the elevator and some guy asked him about being a rhino and he goes, I voted with Republicans 91% of the time and the 9% I didn't were when they were inflating the budget, funding foreign wars, and protecting pedophiles, and just walks into the fucking elevator. You're like, hey.
Bro,
listen.
The best part of that, though, that was a hit piece by Laura Loomer. That was put out to try and tank Massie.
I mean, she's
well, sure, but how funny is that a hit piece to try and end his career became the best campaign video he'll ever get?
That's what I'm saying. That's where I think like it's on purpose.
Oh, interesting.
There's no way you can possibly put that out and think that's going to hurt him.
I think you're not giving your enemies enough credit for being stupid.
I mean, she is I did say it. Like, I don't even get involved with her.
I would encourage
she's
not.
Just, whoa. That's full blown, like never go full reach from Tropic Thunder. She even looks like Simple Jack, but
oh man,
still you're not gonna get that one out of your head.
Oh, dude, you're gonna get no. I'm just getting nervous for you because she's such a lunatic. She's gonna come after both of us.
Yeah, her and all 10 of her followers.
Yeah,
I'm so worried. Woo. Yeah, but that's just wild that you would put something out like that and think that that's not like Americana fucking 2.0.
Dude, it's a banger line.
It's a banger line,
and to do it on the fly,
yeah,
when you're getting hit from a antagonistic reporter and to just drop that and walk off. It's like, and he does it with a smile too. You can't teach that kind of savoir faire or whatever the fuck. It's like, he's just a beast.
How do you fix this? How do you get the system so that it actually, I don't care what countries are involved, like get anything of any other foreign country's interests out of our priorities insofar as our elected officials making decisions on the basis of the American people and not other places?
I mean, I think we are making progress in that regard, but we're also running out of time. So that's my biggest concern is like when someone like you asks me, how do we fix this? I have answers, but they're not implementable because I don't have the political capital. I don't have the public on my side enough to implement them. But like I could save the dollar. I could save the reserve currency status. I could save, our Constitution. I could do so many things if I had the public on my side, but I don't. So then I just revert to practicality. What can I actually accomplish within our means? And I just think that we just have to continue to, nudge the ball down the field. It's like we have, like I posted a couple days ago saying growing up is realizing that a mass layoff at the Washington Post is the exact same thing as a mass layoff at the Daily Wire. Progress. Like that is indicative of our success, of our winning, that like we are slowly but surely putting the propagandists out of business. And as long as we don't have the political power to make institutional reforms, that is the power that we have at our disposal, is to win by telling the truth more boldly, more loudly, more courageously than any of these people can or are willing to, or their donors will permit. And we have that ability. So should we win in that fight? Yeah, we should, because we don't have any of those holdbacks. We have both of our fists out, and they've got one, like Charlie Kirk had one tied behind his back, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the reason that I'm hopeful ultimately, is that I believe we are winning the propaganda war, that we are defeating the, state propagandists. And I think it's evidenced by the numbers, from you to Rogan to Tucker to Candace to my middling success and Dave Smith and all these other people. It's like all of the people that I like are doing good, and all of the people I don't like are falling off a cliff. So if you can't look at that and come away with some optimism, I think you're not looking at it right.
The one thing that I want to make sure does come out of this is you're absolutely right. Where there's propaganda and lies and people who are perpetuating that and like purposely making money off of it, of course, like the market should correct itself in that way. But I also, I've had like this crisis of conscience. I don't even know what to call it, especially since the January 30th Epstein drop. I mean, as someone who's looked at this case for 7 years, obviously I knew it was horrific and all that, but this just put it on a whole different lens to where even the things that I was like, they probably didn't go that far. Now it's like, oh, maybe it went farther, And the reason I bring it up is because I catch myself having to stop myself from automatically just reverting to anything I hear from anywhere that is any sort of established place, therefore the opposite 100% must be true, rather than looking at each thing on a case-by-case basis. And I think we have a really important moment here in independent media as a whole, regardless of where people stand on issues and whatever, to prove that, yes, the mainstream and these places have been exposed for the lies and stuff like that, but now let's not become the same thing from another side or a different lens that they did. And that's the one thing, like, I get stuff wrong. I'll get things wrong in the future, but I do my best, at least with what I can control, which is just right here, to hear out different voices, give my opinions where it's relevant, and like try to do it on the basis of evidence we can see. And if something changes, I'll change it. You know what I mean?
Well, look, I think that's the key difference, though, is that it's not an expectation. Like, our audiences don't expect us to get everything right. They expect us to be honest when we get it wrong, though.
Yes.
And that's what you don't get from the propagandists. That's what you don't get from Ben Shapiro, who said, get your jab, dopes, like, fuck you, dude, enjoy your poverty line. Like, that's how I feel about people like that. If you show, like Tucker Carlson, that's totally the opposite side, right? Tucker Carlson got the war on terror dead ass wrong. He got it totally backwards. He was pushing the propagandistic lies. But what did he do once he like actually realized it? He admitted it. And he's been eternally apologetic. tirelessly apologetic, willing to, no matter how many times he has to say it, he will say it, and he doesn't get upset when people ask him about it because it's sincere. That's the difference between someone like Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. That's the reason Tucker Carlson is the biggest name in right-wing media, and Ben Shapiro has fallen off a cliff, because that's what the audience is looking for. Not that you get everything right. Tucker got one of the biggest things in our lifetimes wrong. Right. But he showed the desire to pursue truth, and that's what we need. So I agree with you, though. I think it's a huge mistake to just believe that because it's independent media that it necessarily is going to get these stories right that the corporate media gets wrong. That's not at all, that doesn't logically follow at all. So this is why I'm so, I shouldn't say so critical, but I am somewhat critical of the tactics that Candace Owens uses. Like, I don't like going through familial history of Erika Kirk and looking at her grandparents or her great grandparents and drawing some sort of lineage of con artistry and therefore concluding that, look how suspect this lady must be. It's like, that's fucking, I don't know. That's not how I view the world as an individualist. I don't do that with any other group of people. I don't do that with Jewish people. I don't do that with black people. I'm not going to do that to Erika Kirk either. Yeah. I just think it's wrong. I'm not guilty of the crimes of my great grandfather. What are we fucking talking about? So
yeah, judge people on their own merits.
Yeah, but my point is, like, the standard needs to be higher, and I think, but at the same time, I'm not like the dictator of this world. I think that the audience decides what standard they're willing to accept and live with, and if Candace goes too far and she gets enough things wrong, she'll hemorrhage audience too. Like, that's the game here. So I think that's evidence of a functioning information system, one that we haven't had throughout our lives because we were cloistered off into these media bubbles that, like, our grandparents only had 3 nightly news channels, right? And then you and I had, 30 or whatever. And now we have thousands of options or millions of options. And it's like, there's no reason to believe that we can't have a truly meritocratic system that allows for the audiences to decide who deserves to be the top of the heap in this world. And it's never been like that in human history. And I think that's the main reason that the power structure is moving so rapidly to try and cut us off at the pass and create the AI framework and the spying apparatus and everything else. Is like, the whole way that they controlled us forever was through information, like suppression, right?
Of course.
Good luck. You can't really do it now, right? Or it's like much harder. So I think that's the reason that they're reorienting their control mechanisms. They're going away from information control and suppression to both overt power through militarism,
No, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through overt power, through militarism, but then also psychological operations and manipulation and other means. I'll lose most of your audience when I go down that path, but I'm just saying, I think it's obvious that they are evolving their methodologies for control.
Okay. Let's take one more break. We're going to let them drill some trees out there for 10 minutes, and we'll be right back.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was just saying, I thought you were coming into town for the Met Gala, but you were telling me off air you don't even know what that is.
The only thing I know about the Met Gala is that I saw the chick who bombed in, like, the remake of Wicked, who seemed like she was gacked out of her mind.
Oh.
Rachel Zegler or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a video of her jaw going left and right.
Well, there was history made last night.
Oh, okay.
There was some serious history made at the Met Gala. There was the first, I want to make sure I get this right, Deef, the first black transgender quadriplegic cerebral palsy model. Get it out.
Oh, dude, I saw
that's real. That's real. This is real. Actually, a fan of the show went to high school with her too. He was like,
"Oh my god, dude." My friend Josie, the redhead libertarian, if you could pull up her quote tweet of that, it's an absolute banger.
So you did see that one?
I did, but I didn't realize that was a Met Gala.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, what's her name? Cardi B came dressed as an intestine
to sell it for prostate awareness or what?
Something. Katy Perry came in a transhumanist. I don't know what was going on.
TRHL official.
I'm just like, if you're like an ancient Rome historian and you're studying like the end times of empire about like elites and everyone else,
Yeah, bro. This is what I'm saying, though. But this is why when you asked me, just before the break, like, all right, how do we fix this? And I'm like, well, we got to stop giving those people attention at all. Like, that is pure distraction. That has
very distracting.
That has no bearing on anything that we need to be doing to actually remedy things. In fact, those people all need to fade from the public. All right, yeah. Josie says,
she goes, I filled my woke bingo card with one person. What was it? Someone else tweeted out, yo, this the woke final boss right here.
That's great, dude. Yeah.
Oh, the intrusive thoughts that were coming to my mind when I saw that. I was like, don't tweet.
Yeah, that's the type of shit that you would have seen in 2020. You're like, if I even engage with this, I'm going to get suspended.
Right.
Like, can't do it.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. But, I just see it. Can we pull up the Sarah Paulson one? I got to pick on her. So, you're going to an event that's 350 fucking stacks a table. It's literally run by Bezos, which, they did have a nice protest for him outside, and some people didn't show up in solidarity because the Bezoses were running it. But then you have an actress worth an estimated $12.5 million with a staff carrying her up with whatever that is she's wearing, with a dollar bill over her fucking eyeballs.
What's the
to
message?
Protest the 1%. Her words, not mine.
Every job she's ever had in Hollywood was from the 1%.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
for the record, so is she.
Yeah.
What are we even talking about?
Like
if she was doing that to protest the Federal Reserve, I'd be like, based as hell. She gets it. That's not what this is. What are you fucking doing?
I just see this and I'm like, there was a point where she was in a room discussing this with someone and said, I'm going to wear an outfit with a dollar bill over my fucking eyeballs so that people have to carry me through this room and I can't even look at all the people taking pictures of me or admiring me, if that's what you want to say. And I'm going to do it as a multimillionaire actress to protest the 1% at the biggest 1% event of the year. And it's a great idea. Those words, that thought process,
that
maybe
happened.
not those exact words, that did happen.
No, that thought process had to have happened. I mean, isn't that just the perfect demonstration of how detached these people are? That they're like, this is going to come off great. I'm going to win the PR war here. It's like, no, you're worth $20 million and you just had your slave carry you around because you wanted to wear some virtue signaling dollar mask.
I'm not, and here's the thing, man. I love people that work hard and get really successful at something,
Me too.
whatever it is, as long as it's not like completely immoral.
I don't begrudge her success at all.
Yeah,
she's a great actress.
She's a great actress. I'm like, good for you.
But just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Understand who you are and by the way, the great privilege that comes with what you've been able to earn yourself. It's
kidding.
not that hard.
Right.
I get to talk on camera for a living. I may not have a lot of money yet, but I think that's the biggest privilege in the world. I'm not going to sit here and act like that makes you fucking different than people, though.
No, for sure. I say this all the time when I end my episodes. I'm like, love you guys. See you next time. It's like, I love my audience. For real. Because I can't believe that I've got, 60, 100, whatever, thousand people that are watching me every episode. It's like, it doesn't even compute.
It's wild.
It's unbelievable.
It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. And and they are voluntarily giving me their time. I've never advertised my show. I've never done anything to promote it other than like go on other shows. So it's just purely, did you ever hear of me? Did you ever check out something I said? And then did you vibe with it? And now here you are checking me out every, couple times a week. It's like, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So I will never lose my amazement or appreciation for it. And I feel like anybody who's done what you've done and I've done, building up a true organic audience, it's the most special thing in the world.
Coolest thing ever.
That's why I would never do something stupid like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it just, I don't even know how you get that disconnected, honestly.
Those kinds of things give me the ick. Like when I see that where I'm just like, oh
yeah.
my God, because I don't know. I've always looked at it like if I fuck with you, I fuck with you. I don't give a shit what you do.
Right.
And maybe that's why I do this for a living, by the way. I talk with people from all different walks of life, from all over the world. Like, it's the best thing ever. But there's something that happens to people. It's not just actors and actresses. There's something in society that happens to people that as they raise up their stature, I've seen it again and again, and everyone else out there has seen it as well, where they switch up. And they suddenly, things that 10 years ago wouldn't have even been a thought process in their world are now a baseline expectation that's actually below.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I do. Look, I think this is also, I'll say this as gently as possible, but I think that's why Joe Rogan has been getting some hate as of late, is that because of his relationship to Peter Thiel and his friendliness with Trump, I think a lot of people are feeling as if he's holding his punches back, and I'm a long time Joe Rogan fan. I fucking listened to that dude in
Me too.
09 is when I first started. Like I was
you were OG.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I was episode 54 or something like that. Like, so love Rogan, but I think it's also true that when you, as we talked about earlier, when you build personal relationships with politicians, it nerfs you. It makes it so that it's very hard, and especially when you're like, and I got to say, I credit Joe with this, because what he got done by playing ball with Trump to get legalized psychedelic treatment for PTSD.
That was cool. Yeah.
That's fucking great, man.
That was cool.
Like, he'll save lives. He'll save some of those military veterans we were talking about earlier. He'll save some of those guys because of that policy. So, can I get that mad at him? I guess I can't, but at the same time, I think it hurts your show, because as soon as you start to pull punches, you're not telling the full truth.
Well, that's the thing. You talked about it earlier, like when you were talking about spending time with Vivek Ramaswamy, and like you get to know him as a person. I don't like to say the word never, because things change and you don't know, but my guys will tell you, I've had a firm rule throughout the 6+ years of this
No
podcast.
politicians, right?
No politicians. Yep. And I've stuck to that very strongly, even when given some pretty good offers to have on some nice names. I'm like, fuck no.
You're the one who taught me that.
Yeah.
You're the one who woke me up to it. I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, damn, that's a good policy.
Yeah, if someone were in office in the past or something, I might do that one, as long as they're not like actively
like
running.
Ron Paul.
Yeah, I might do that. But like when you start to deal with people who actually have their hands on the levers, I need to be able to criticize or praise, depending on what the situation is, what they do while having a separation of a state.
I completely agree.
If you will. And so the place where, because like I see it I see the strong reactions against Rogan online all over the place. And like the guy is a hero of mine. Like he's the reason I can do what I do. That should not make him be above criticism, to be clear.
Right.
And it's also a great lesson that the longer you last and the longer you're great, at some point you're going to do something where, people will turn on you for some things. And it's like none of us are above that. But like at the same time, this isn't to write off some of those decisions. Like I've said this. I, for one, would not have talked to Peter Thiel in the year 2025. I think that was a big mistake. But like, maybe he said fuck it. I've said that. I'm like, I've said fuck it for people have never heard of. So I don't like throwing stones from glass houses because I'm a fucking micro fucking size compared to that. At the same time, I always feel like because he was the first guy to go through all these different things, whatever they are, like as the trailblazer, it makes the bar higher for me and everyone else coming after him, because not only do we get to see the examples of the things that he did right that we then get the example of to be able to follow, but we also see the examples of mistakes that were made, and therefore we don't have the excuse of saying, hey, we didn't see that one coming.
Right.
So I think there's a positive.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that's actually how I want to model parenting whenever I have kids. It's like you want to take the good and leave the bad. I think that's how you evolve your lineage and progress. So I view podcasting the same way. Like all my inspirations, obviously Dave Smith was a huge inspiration, even though he became a really good friend of mine. I first heard him on Rogan 2017 or something like that, and I was like, oh shit, it's me. I was like, I'm on Rogan right now. How cool is this? And then I started my show 3 years later, and then he was on my show a year after that. So I went from being a fan to 4 years later, becoming a friend. But point is, Rogan, huge inspiration. Even Bill Simmons from the sports realm, he was a real pioneer. Just a handful of guys that like really inspired me to think that this is a thing. Like this is a real thing. Like this is not going away. This is going to actually replace whole industries. And I think that we have almost a duty to learn the lessons of both the good and the bad that Rogan and Dave and everybody else has done.
100%, man. And that's, I try to have that conversation behind the scenes all the time with like things we're seeing or things I'm thinking about doing. And like I said, I've made plenty of mistakes. It's just a matter of, I know there's also like some bullets I dodged where it's like, my dumbass probably wouldn't have dodged that if I didn't have the examples of not just Rogan, but some other guys before who were way bigger that either did it wrong or did it right.
Right.
And it was very clear what it was. So, I mean, listen, it's still the Wild West in some cases in this space. So we got to kind of let this thing settle. The thing I do worry about, though, is the thing you've been alluding to all day, which is that if the technocratic elite already have this fucking whatever it is set up, is this just like, a final charade act that we have no idea we're a part of, and this thing's a fucking dystopian 1984 reality in like a year?
Are we the band playing on the Titanic
Yes.
as it sinks? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and honestly, we won't know. Like, we'll only know in hindsight if that's the case. Obviously, kind of like we talked about it in the very beginning about simulation theory. It's like, I just choose to dismiss that option because how does it benefit me to accept defeat before I even know definitively that I'm defeated?
Right.
It doesn't benefit me. So I'm going to function as if there's a chance just in hopes that there is one. And I believe that unless we're willing to do that, then we are truly hopeless. So I reject, Dave Smith says this all the time. He's like, I'm a father. He's like, I've got 2 little kids at home. Do you think that failure is an option here?
Right.
You think I'm going to let the American experiment perish in my lifetime when my inspiration is a guy like Ron Paul? Like, not on my watch, homeboy. Like, I ain't going down without a fight. So that's how I feel about it. And I just feel like we need to spread that spirit and not let it perish. And that's how we prevail ultimately.
That could be a really good thing to come out of the cycles we've seen, in that I don't like being one of these people who just like picks on the boomers or whatever, because there's groupthink ideas that get implemented unknowingly in society, and then people just go along with stuff. And I don't think that's like on an individual basis people's fault. But with the boomers, there's the idea that people talk about where it's like, this is the first generation that through long-term actions overall on the average didn't care as much about the future of their kids' generation versus their own. The one maybe good thing that could come out of that is I feel like there's an awareness of that maybe being true among Gen Z and millennials and stuff.
Yeah.
And so now with them becoming parents, if we can fucking create an environment where people can afford to become parents and shit, separate conversation. But like, I feel like there's a lot more impetus now, at least in the conversations I have with friends of mine who are new parents and stuff like that, who are obsessed with making the world way better for their kid and are therefore more aware of some of the shit that's going on that's a mess.
That's absolutely true. But I will add to that is that many of those people have been, in my opinion, co-opted into things that are actually self-destructive.
What do you mean?
For instance, the whole green agenda. A lot of people like that generation you're talking about, the one who was like, I'm rejecting this abandonment of my responsibility to the planet, to the future, everything else. Almost all of them bought into the global warming.
Polar opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but what's even crazier about those folks is that then not only did they buy into what I believe is a largely fictitious narrative, but they also supported state action and global governance to try and remedy it. I mean, they got played like a fucking fiddle, dude. So that's the danger, is that just because you're more aware, just because you have better intentions, doesn't mean you have better outcomes. Like intention's important, but it ain't everything. You got to actually be, your target has to be in the right direction. So that's my fear. And the same phenomenon to the global warming was the woke experience, in my opinion. It was this genuine, good-hearted desire to eliminate racism and bigotry and homophobia and right? But what did it do? What was the outcome? The outcome was the opposite.
Nick Fuentes.
Yeah. And trust me, Nick Fuentes is fucking mild compared to the people that are right behind him. So I just think that that's the key, is it's not just about intention, it's about outcome. And
I agree.
They got played.
But it's a whip. You just pointed out, it's a whip and a roll, man. This is how society works. And this is where I get really cynical, is I always do this like little post-World War II pendulum, You got Truman, Eisenhower. Kennedy, they whacked in, left in Johnson. Nixon, they kicked him out, left in Ford for a minute. Carter had the inflation crisis. Reagan bought 4 extra years for his intel buddy Bush. Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. It's just the swing back and forth. And I keep waiting for the guy that's going to be like, hold up, wait a minute. Let's part the sea here. We're right here.
Right.
Do you ever think a moment like that will actually come, though, or are we just programmed to not let that happen?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, this is a question I was asking myself and attempting to answer back in 2020. You don't even know this about me, or 2024, I should say, just a couple of years ago. I ran for the vice president of the United States.
Someone told me that actually a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Under the Libertarian Party. And I couldn't even get the delegates. I got 49% of the delegates. I needed 51. So I came up like 3 votes short from getting the nomination. But
well, you wouldn't be on this podcast, so
yeah,
that's for the best.
Yeah, no, it was for the best. It was for the best for a lot of reasons. But my point in bringing that up is not to brag, because it's not a brag. It's something I didn't want to do. I was literally doing it because Dave had said he was going to run, and then he backed out because of family stuff, and he was just like, I'm not going to do it. And he had this whole movement that wanted to see him do it. And a lot of people, including Dave and a bunch of people, were like, you're like the closest thing we got. You're like our B- tier Dave. So you got to step up. And I was like, I don't want to do this at all. And I'm not going to dedicate the time to be the top of the ticket. So slot me in as VP. All right. I'll see if the delegates put me on the line. Anyways, I got very fortunate, lost by a couple votes. But the reason I bring that up is that when you talk about who's going to be the guy who says stop, a lot of people think and hope, I was one of them, that stop guy is going to come from a third party. And what you realize very rapidly after being involved in this stuff is that, one, third parties are rife with people who are kind of ideological, I don't want to be mean about it, but almost like drama kids. You know, I think many of them are serious, like they feel these things internally, sincerely. But then when it comes to acquiring power and wielding power, many libertarians naturally are going to have an aversion to that because we don't like the state. So it's very hard to get a true blue libertarian who wants to actually wield the power of the state. Because if you're going to diminish the power of the state, you have to fucking wield that power somehow, homeboy. You got to get there, right? So most of them aren't willing. So anyways, the point I'm getting to is that part of it makes third parties very challenging. But the real challenging part is that the duopoly is perfectly structured to blast those people. I mean, just to crush them.
Yes.
They keep them off the ballot. They force you to spend millions and millions of dollars to even get on the ballot. And then once you get on the ballot, you've already blown your whole wad and you don't have any money to put into ad campaigns to actually try and compete. Then you don't get any fucking media coverage because you're looked at as a joke oftentimes, and oftentimes you are one. So point is, and this is why I came to the conclusion, and I ultimately voted for Trump, is because I'm like, I'm going to take the marginal preference over the destructive World War III assuredness. That was kind of how I was viewing things. And then I'm going to hope that really what I was voting for with Trump was not Trump himself. It was his base. It was the people who were like, fuck the war on terror. We know we got had. Fuck lockdowns. We know we got had. And, so many other things that I agree with them on. The censorship under the Biden era, like they had to lose. The Democrats had to lose. They were so abusive towards us over that period.
It was a bad 4 years.
It was awful.
Yeah.
So I was voting for Trump because I wanted that movement to stay alive, and I wanted to see what that would evolve into. And what I think we've discovered in the first year of Trump's second term is that he's a con man. I don't think he's for real at all. I think that he played his part in galvanizing the populist right-wing movement that was, as you described it, the natural yin to the yang of the insane woke era. Mm-hmm. But he also demonstrated a complete incapacity or lack of desire to fix the things that he promised to fix.
Yeah.
So now the question is, where does that energy go? Does it become kind of a nihilistic, radicalized, disparate movement, a diaspora, if you will, mm-hmm. or does it galvanize behind a Fuentesian movement or a Massian movement? That's the TBD. I'm obviously trying to direct it towards
fucking Massie movement. I mean, shit, man.
I'm telling you,
any form of like opposite day is never going to end well. That's the one part of my life that has proven itself true again and again. And in a weird way, it's proven itself true with Trump in ways that even I didn't expect. I've always known Trump's a New York real estate guy, and he certainly lies all the time and stuff. But there's like a percentage calculus you make on, all right, how will this turn out?
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, his first administration was chaotic because he's a chaos kind of guy. But like, he didn't hit the red button. Things were okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't the worst presidency I've ever seen.
Until 2020, it was probably the best presidency in my lifetime, honestly.
We probably argue over that, but either way, like it wasn't doomsday at all.
No.
And then I do believe this. I think COVID would have happened to anyone, and there were certainly mistakes made on his part there. That's a separate conversation we can legislate. But prior to COVID, it was like, all the like fear mongering about how bad he could possibly be. Yeah, it's bumpy. Yeah, it's whatever. It's like, all right, we survived. It's fine. So when he was coming up the second time, and he was actually making some promises on things, there were things that I'm looking at it objectively, and I'm like, yeah, he'll probably follow through on that. And there were a couple things he did, but so many things, not only has he not followed through, he's done the complete opposite.
Yeah.
He's literally changed what he said. And so when people are attacking people like, you voted for this, it's like, all right, listen, those people that voted for Donald Trump, whether it's you or anyone else out there listening who did, you have to go off of what you had seen in the administration before and what you had seen in Trump's administration before and pick the least worst option. And I fully understand to this day why people said this is the least worst option. I don't think it should be the fault of people that now the second time around, he's literally gone full opposite day on everything. If he had gone opposite day on like 20% of things, all right, people would live with that. Right. But when you're starting wars with Iran and shit like that, or saying like, no, the Epstein thing is a Democratic hoax, like, go fuck yourself, bro.
Exactly.
Like, it's such bullshit.
But see, this is what, I don't even get frustrated with it at this point because I just think it's so ridiculous. But Dave Smith and myself and a bunch of libertarians ultimately decided to vote for Trump. But you got to remember too, Trump came to our national convention.
Yeah,
he pitched us like we were wielding our minimal influence for the first time in the history of the Libertarian Party. We were actually like having not a seat at the table, but like an audience with the king, right?
Right.
It's like, are you going to reject that? You going to laugh it off? Like I personally wasn't prepared to. I was like, this is the first time we might get something. We never get fucking anything, dude. Nothing ever. Our party's existed for like 70 fucking years. We get nothing ever. So when they're like, hey, we can free Ross Ulbricht.
He did do that.
And he did. Yeah. And for the record, he didn't do that. We did that. Yeah. We freed a human being. So I sleep fine at night knowing, that decision, it came with peril, obviously. I even said in the episode where I announced that I was voting. And by the way, I decided like 5 days before the election. I was not I
actually remember that's when I really found you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the first time I finally was like, I'm going to do it. Like they got me. Just this one time. I voted Libertarian my whole life, but like this one time they got me. And I really don't regret it. Like I'm very angry with so many of the things that Trump has done, but I felt, I feel like you can only regret something when you look back and you go, I could have seen this and made a different decision, and that's why I got it wrong. I was like, no, I was as deep in this shit as you could be.
The information that you had.
Yeah, and I wasn't ignoring anything. Even in the episode where I announced it, I said, worst case scenario with Donald Trump round 2 is war with Iran. You guys can go back and watch my episode. That's what I said. So
you jinxed us.
No, I'm just saying, I warned my audience. And I also said, don't follow me into this. This is my choice. Make your own. Make your own calculus. I trust each and every one of you. I'm not fucking trying to, become some booster for some party or anything like that. I'm making my own choice. So I don't feel any shame in it. I feel like I made the only logical decision that I could make at that time. But the key is, as I said earlier with Tucker, do you hold those politicians to account when they fail you? And are you willing to sacrifice something to hold them to account? And that's why I respect Tucker Carlson so much, because he's put himself on the outs, because he was willing to just continue to beat the drum and say, no, I'm not buying your revisionist 1984 history. I know what you said. You said that the entire wars in the Middle East, the entire global war on terror, was built on a lie. He made his name in South Carolina when he said, your brother lied us into Iraq.
Yep, I remember that.
And for the record, people forget this. He got booed for saying that, but then he won.
And he won
because
he got booed by the donor class that was in the audience.
Exactly, because that's the key thing to understand is that the audience there is the donor class. So they boo because they want it to be reflected to the public who's watching at home, who doesn't understand that those are the donors, that they go, that's an unpopular thing. But it wasn't, because the people at home had military veteran sons and fathers and daughters. And they were like, yeah, he's right, dude. They lied us into this war. So my point is, all I really expect of people is to be honest about, I hoped that Trump and his promises, he would deliver on 30%. We got 10, and I'm very angry about it. But am I going to at least be loud about it? Am I going to hold him to account? That's all I can do.
That's all you can do.
That's all that's in my power.
We as a society also have to, at some point, from like a groupthink perspective, look in the mirror and think about how, as a people, we decide to coalesce and organize around things, because we keep doing this thing where every 4 years we're like, all right, shitty option 1 and shitty option 2. And it shouldn't be that way. This is America. This should be a place where, like, at some point you have a president like George Washington that, like, the majority of people are really fucking proud of.
Well, I agree with you, man, but I think it's also, and look, I'm not putting the blame on the American people, but the truth is that the American people are deeply propagandized and mal-educated, like not even lacking education, but actually having education that is counterproductive. So it's a big uphill climb to even coalesce around an idea of what is the remedy. Yeah. As I said earlier, you've got half the people who are, politically engaged and enlightened and awake think that racism and transphobia is the fucking gravest danger that we face in the world today. It's like, we're currently waging a proxy war between the two largest nuclear powers, and you guys are still talking about fucking bigotry. Like, how stupid are you? So that's the problem, is like, we have to, I agree with you. Yes, we need to coalesce. Yes, we need to have a third option. Yes, we need to have, not just a knee-jerk reaction to the left-right, paradigm swing. We have to have a principled alternative, but you can only get a principled alternative into power if there is actually a demand for it. And as of now, even though you and I and our audiences probably all want that, I still don't think that we're the majority. And unfortunately, I don't think that we're close. I think we're 25% of the population.
That might even be high. But
I'm being optimistic.
Yeah. No, which is sad. But like when we were talking about earlier about people not having to get their own food now and shit like that, and the conveniences and comfort of society. Another thing I've always thought about is, with the exception of terrorist attacks in 1941 and 2001 and the War of 1812, we have never been invaded, and it shows. We have geographic privilege in this country compared to most places around the world, including some other superpowers, just by our lack of borders on the east and west. And, we can argue about the cartel and drug threat and shit like that, but places that aren't going to beat us in a war to the north and south, if you know what I mean.
Not even close. Yeah.
Not even close. So there is a level of Americana exceptionalism and complacency that has been generationally built in to all of us, to you and I included,
of course,
as well. And I don't really know.
And it feels good.
It feels good, but like, what about the moment where it all comes down?
Well, that's the whole problem, is that we are almost impervious to military attack. We're way too focused on external enemies and not nearly focused enough on the internal. I mean, what collapses an empire is almost never another invading army. It's almost never that. Right. It's always the currency. Always, every single time. So, I mean, the fact that we're not learning those lessons is just unforgivable. I mean, the fact that we're talking about, as our empire is obviously flailing and starting to fail, that we are talking about spending $1.5 trillion a year in defense, an increase of more than 50% of our already, as we already did the math, a match of the 10 largest defenses in the world. At $1.5 trillion, I honestly think that you could probably tabulate all of the defenses of every nation on earth, and it would be comparable to just what America intends to spend. It's suicide. And we're not going to lose a war unless and until the dollar loses its purchasing power. And that time is coming. And that is Ron Paul's warning from 20 years ago. And it's Rothbard's and Mises's warning from 100 years ago. And it's my warning to you today. It is coming. So we have a choice to change that, but we have to coalesce around that idea and that understanding and not get sidetracked with the Met Gala and wokeness and racism and all that.
But that would also require us understanding that there are multiple classes of people that are completely unelected that we don't see,
Sure.
who are effectively making these decisions that we don't know about. And you would think that now that we have at least 3 million of the emails that very clearly show that this exists and intermingles things like intelligence, sex trafficking, arms deals, and all the fucking funding of wars and currency wars and problems around the world, you would think that people would wake up to that. But we continue to get lost in whatever the next news cycle is, and stories like that somehow die out when the evidence is right there in front of us to have our moment, not even a revolutionary moment, but a moment of like, wait a minute, this system is not what we're told it is. We have to take that back. And whether that is like people have to actually form a third party or so, I don't know. But like there has to be a conversation that happens, and that's where I get cynical because I see it. I mean, we've been covering the Epstein files in here. We're going to continue to do it because it's the biggest story of my lifetime, in my opinion. But you know, can goes down the road, the song keeps playing, the wheels keep turning. People go outside, and you know they worry about other shit, and they don't realize that it's still all happening like that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just so your audience knows, you're probably already familiar, but this has been, a debate that libertarians have been having forever. There's always this argument of third party versus what we describe as the paleo strategy. Rothbard popularized this in the 1990s when I think he kind of broke ranks and he ended up supporting, I think it was Buchanan. Okay. In like 92 or something like that. So I'm more of the Rothbard school. Murray Rothbard, he's an Austrian economist guy. Anyways, moving on. I think that our best avenue is to side with the party that aligns with us most closely, and then side with the elements within that party that push our ideology the furthest. So that's why I'm a believer in, and why I've been such a huge booster of Thomas Massie. I honestly believe he's our best hope. I think that he's got not a good chance, but an outside chance of running and winning the nomination in 28. Because I think people are, what you're describing, that kind of universal disgust, this bipartisan disgust with the establishment, everybody recognizes that Thomas Massie is not the establishment. He's not that. Whether you have disagreements with them or whatever. Like a lot of lefties have massive disagreements with Thomas Massie, obviously. But they respect him, and I think that they would vote for him. And I think that there's a ton of right-wingers that are America first and they fucking mean it, that they would vote for Thomas Massie, even if they have disagreements about X, Y, and Z. So I think he's our best hope in 28. Beyond that, get ready for Fuentes in 36. I'm telling you what's going to happen.
Listen, a lot can happen between now and then. I hope to see us, like if we're in that crisis moment of the fourth turning, I hope to see this turn, and we can just calm down. But you're absolutely right. I think about the reserve currency issue every single day. People have no idea that is the entire house of cards right there.
It's everything. And just a little, I feel as if you're rapping, but I just got to say, the Strait of Hormuz is super important for people that don't understand like what it's about. 30% of global oil traffic annually goes through the Strait of Hormuz, but it's not just that. Yeah. It's fertilizer and all sorts of important things that are necessary for food production. It also is one of the main supply lines to Europe, which is allegedly an ally of ours, even though we seem to be attempting to destroy them. Anybody's guess as to why, I don't know. But then obviously it's also a proxy against China, which gets a lot of its oil from Iran. Which is also where the Venezuela play comes in most likely, because they were a supplier of crude oil to China as well. But the point that I'm trying to get to is the reason that the navigable waters matter so much in that arena is that after the gold standard was ended, after the gold window was closed in 73, we replaced it by backing up the dollar with what was called the petrodollar system, where we got the Saudis and some other Middle Eastern nations to agree to sell their oil and gas exclusively in the U.S. dollar. That became the underpinning by which our dollar maintained its value. It became the primary trading currency of the world because of that petrodollar system. The Iranians are playing for keeps. What they're saying is that we now control the Strait of Hormuz, and if you want to transit it, then you have to kick out the United States and the Israeli ambassador from your nation, and you have to trade in a currency other than the US dollar.
Right.
That's all they're saying. And you would think that that's a minor ask when the rest of the world just really, really wants to trade through there. But what that means is the death of the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world. That means all of those trillions of dollars that are used for global trade come flooding back home domestically because they have no purpose abroad. That means that you have hyperinflation and you have a complete death spiral of our economy. Yes. So when I say that this shit matters, trust me, it matters.
Future's bright, everybody.
Well,
nobody worry.
But this is why you have to fucking stand shoulder to shoulder with the libertarians. When we talk about this war shit, it ain't just about woe is me. I really don't like to see kids blown up. If that works for you, great. It should. But if it doesn't, at least hear us when it comes to the practicality of it.
Yep.
The financial.
Yep.
Do you want to be able to afford a home? Do you want to have a family, kids, anything? Okay, this matters.
This is the moment to realize that, we've been divided on this like left-right battle over the years. And it's like, yes, people have some different ideas on how to get to a solution, but people generally want the same things: life, liberty, family, health, the pursuit of happiness.
Yep.
And it's like, if ever there was a moment for us to understand the battle is class versus politics, this is it. So I appreciate any message that comes from the left-leaning side or the right-leaning side on that. You're obviously a right-leaning guy with the libertarianism, but extremely, extremely well-informed, man. And,
well, thank you.
The stuff you've talked about, like I said, I've followed you on Twitter now for a couple of years. Like, you're constantly in my feed, and it's nice to hear people actually like putting actions behind the things that they believe in, and you've definitely done that, whether it be through your show or like even working inside the Libertarian Party in the past. Like, that's pretty cool, and I hope you keep trying to educate people so that we can avoid some of these pitfalls we're facing right now.
Well, I appreciate it, man. When I had you on my show a couple months ago, I said I feel like we're only in the second or third evolution of the podcasting world. Like, as you said, this is still fairly early into it. And I feel like you are that next wave, and I'm thrilled that you've been as successful as you have been. And I just love it when I see people that I like kicking ass. You know what I mean? It's like it just tells me that I think that there's reason for optimism. I said it earlier. I mean it. Yes, I lay out a very pessimistic outlook when I'm talking about global finance, but it's not coming from a place of pessimism.
It's fixable.
It's fixable. It is. But the information battle is what we, as Alex Jones said, it's the information war. Yeah. We got to win the information war. And once we win that, the rest will fall into place. So if anybody wants to check out the show, Liberty Lockdown. Thank you.
We'll collab this so people can subscribe. As long as you're good with that. People can subscribe literally hitting like next to the title on the video. You'll see Clint's channel. Check it out. Great stuff. I was on the show a couple months ago.
Yeah, I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers. So if you guys get me that fucking silver plaque, for the love of God.
All right. We got to get him a silver plaque. That should be enough right there. Everyone go subscribe to Clint. Thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man.
All right, everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for watching the video. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button before you leave, as well as leaving a like on the video. It's a huge, huge help. You can join my Patreon via the link in the description, and you can also join my clipping community via the Discord link down below. See you for the next episode.